Hello and welcome to IndiePod, an indie games podcast, your weekly source for all the indie games news you need to know. This week, we will be bringing you 4 awesome indie game news stories before, of course, we hop in to News Cram, God Bless the Crowd, answer your listener questions, and so much more. But
actually, I think that's about it.
Shut your mouth, man. Why you gotta do this to me, okay? Like, I'm just like getting hype here, and you're just like, I'm the one who's supposed to squash things, Josh. Why are you doing this to me?
This is roll swap day.
Exactly. I know, right? I like how you were like, you know what? I'm going to shit on him before he shits on me.
I mean, I know it's coming. I know it's coming.
Dude, I get it. It's cool. But before we do any of that, I would like to introduce myself, Vaughn Hyde, my illustrious co-host, the biggest of average Josh boys, and even though he's beautiful, even though he's amazing, I got to switch over to our guest here. We've got Jacob McCourt. Did I say that correctly?
You absolutely did. I have the most Irish Catholic name you could ever devise, so you crushed it. Thank you.
I'm going to be honest. I think the fact that, like, is it naturally, like, McCourt, like, all squished together? There's no, like, space or anything?
It is no space. The second C is a capital C.
I find that so fucking cool. That's like the coolest thing I've ever seen in a name before. I was like, oh my God, I have to capitalize 2 different things in your name?
Yep.
That's how you know that you're of a higher class of humanity than everybody else, is if you've got multiple capitals in your fucking name.
I have 2 first names. Like, I don't have 2 first names, but my middle name is also a first name. So, like, Jacob Michael McCourt. Tell me that's not a, like, Irish Catholic name if you ever heard one.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I'm not super into, like, you know, biblical characters, but I'm fairly certain. Yeah, most of them are in your name. So that's cool. Awesome. You are, of course, of the Left Behind Game Club. If you're watching this, you can obviously see what he believes is a douchebag move, but I think it's really cool. He is wearing his own merch. It's a cool hat. I'll admit, that's a dope fucking hat.
Thank you.
Like, I want to make IndiePod hats, but the whole Teespring, like, you having to, like, pre-manufacture stuff just pisses me off. I don't want to fuck with it.
Yeah, and with Teespring, t-shirts you can, like, do as is, but hats you need to pre-manufacture? Is that how that works?
Yeah. There's so many things that you, like, they do beta programs where they're just like, okay, certain types of materials and all sorts of stuff. Like, if you want a pencil pouch, you have to buy them before. And I'm like, no, just fucking make it. Like, I'm not messing with you. Just, it's so annoying, dude. It's so annoying. By the way, since we got on the topic of middle names like 25 minutes ago, what's your guys' idea of, like, just not, like, your kid not having a middle name? I don't know if you're, like, wanting to have kids, if you have kids, you know? I mean, Big Josh boy, he's so beautiful. He's probably got kids all around the world that we don't know about. But, like, what's up with middle names? Like, why does it even need to exist? Like, I don't want my kids to have a middle name, but my wife is very, very defendant on the middle name. She wants it so badly. And I'm like, it's fucking stupid. Nobody ever says it.
I technically have 4 names because I have a confirmation name too, because I did that too. So
what's happening here? Yeah, who are you?
Jacob Michael Stanley McCourt, I guess, is technically, it's not my birth name, but in church they would probably say, if I ever went to church, they would be like, your confirmation name is Stanley, therefore you have 4 names. But I have friends with 2 names, like just one first name and a last name, and it's cool. Whatever.
Yeah, it's so appealing to me because it's like there are only some times when you have to put a middle initial or you have to, like, they ask you to put your full name on government documents, and I'm like, I fucking hate my middle name. My middle name is Bryce. It's fucking stupid.
That's a good name.
Like, I hate it. I hate it so much. My wife loves it, and I'm like, it's fucking dumb, dude. It's so stupid.
When you guys have kids, is she gonna name their middle name Bryce as well? Is that why you're so? Is this why you're so angry? You're just like, there's no way I'm letting you have that opportunity.
No, dude. She's gonna take a nap. She's gonna, like, poop out the baby because that's how that happens. You know, me being a man, that's how I believe that happens. And then, like, while she's resting, I'm going to, like, sneak off like a fucking ninja and write in what their name is going to be. And be like, sorry, can't change it now.
Can't change it. No middle name,
baby. If the kid has a middle name, it needs to be one that fits really well with the first name. So, like, think of the Simpsons, like, Max Power. Like, you need to give your kid, like, 2 names that work together in conjunction. So think about it.
See, that's what middle names are so hard, because I feel like you can pretty much choose the first and like the last name's already chosen for you. Other than like the people who create their own last name when they get married, which I think is fucking cool, by the way. That's sweet. But yeah, like middle names are just so annoying and you never even say it. So why does it even matter? No. It's only when you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Or if you're an actor.
I mean, yeah, awesome. And then you just rebrand yourself completely. My wife doesn't have a middle name, and it's always like her whole family, no one has one. And because I guess from like she's come from, excuse me, I can't talk.
Because they're highly evolved?
Yeah, highly evolved. No, she comes from Uruguay, and apparently it's like just a common thing that like no one has one over there. And so I was like, that's so weird. And I was like, well, when we have a kid, we're going to give him a middle name. And she's like, why? And I was like, well... Well, because everyone does. And it's like, it's so strange to me. Like, but it doesn't matter. Like the only thing that would be wrong or like upsetting is that awkward moment where you have to fill out a middle initial and for some reason the form says that it's required and you're like, but I don't have one. Like that would give me such anxiety. Like, I'm like, what do you do in that moment? Like, what do you keep
You write NA and then one person is going to say, so your middle name is Na?
Na?
Na,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's Na. My middle name is Na.
I see that going well. That would actually be one of my favorite experiences to have, because you got to think about changing your entire life into just a content, like a piece of content. So you get to tell that story so many times. You're just like, yeah, everyone thinks my middle name is Nah. It's fucking not. Like, it just doesn't exist.
It's fucking Nah.
So, this is about indie games, of course, but before we get into that, I mean, sometimes it is. Now we got to do some housekeeping. We have our developer interview with... Ooh, this is...
Wait, which one is this? What's the game?
Monstrum 2.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait for you to butcher this.
Eltanon.
Nope, Eltanon.
Nope, I already fucked it.
Eltanon.
Okay, just say it. How do you say the name?
I don't remember the last name, but it's Eltanon.
Okay, Eltanon Cassiani.
I think it's Cassiani. Maybe. It's Eltanon Cassiani. You can just call it El,
I was
though.
so close, dude. I was so fucking close. Like, you can't even come at me for that
one.
It was it was a hair.
No, you were not.
But this is our Monstrum 2 developer interview, of course, going live one day after for patrons, 2 days before for plebes, and one day somebody's going to tell me that they feel offended by that, and I'm going to be honest, I still find it so hilarious. It's never going to change now. It's just so funny. Please check out the IndiePod store over on Teespring. However annoying, we currently only have stickers and shirts, but we will be getting new merch soon once we, pay somebody to actually make us some cool new shit, which I'm actually very much looking forward to. Please go check out IndiePod over on YouTube. We have Josh's awesome review over there. We've got some demo impressions currently. We are uploading the VODs of our Thursday streams, and of course, you can watch these episodes live. Not really. It's technically like an entire week after, but you can watch them over on YouTube. Video versions over on YouTube. Please leave us reviews on any sort of platform in which you can do so. Specifically, iTunes would be best, supposedly, because, everybody fucking says that. Like, literally everyone we have on that's a content creator is just like, iTunes, you really need it. And I'm like, why, though? And they're just like, somebody told me you need it. Like, exactly.
You know what the worst part is? They are country specific. So if you are on a Canadian podcast like me, your, Canadian iTunes presence is killer. But in the U.S., nobody knows you exist.
Yeah, we have that same issue where we've had them basically send us the reviews in an email so we can post it for them in the United States, because it's just so much easier. And lastly, thank you so much to our amazing patrons, Will C, Mixomatosis, aka Mix, Zach Durham, Chase Hopkins, Philip Renshaw, the Wombat Emperor of Australia. And I didn't fuck it up that time, and I feel pretty good about myself, even though I'm definitely gonna fuck it up. Chris Penwell. Always drinking tea, dude. He's guzzling down that tea. Josh Nichols, Active Josh, and Mr. Sam Fillion from Canada. Thank you all so much for being patrons. You're all amazing. And now it's time for us to talk about some indie games. Josh, I'm going to start with you because I want to hear more about Skul the Hero by SouthPAW Games. This game has been blowing up in our fucking Discord. Everybody's playing it, except for me, which I'm upset about. But tell me about Skul the Hero.
Skul the Hero is really good. I think that you'd probably get pissed off at this game because it is a toughie.
Guaranteed.
It is not an easy game. Like, you're meant to die in this. This is very much a roguelike, or roguelite technically, because you can get upgrades. But it's a really cool concept. I don't care too much for the story, just because you're basically this skeleton warrior who's trying to fight this evil human race because the humans are awful. And it's like the opposite version of, you know, how humans are always the good guys in the story, and like this is basically the humans being shitty people and taking over the land, and they were supposed to have an agreement with like monsters throughout the world.
That sounds like history.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, 100%,
it really is. So you're this like lone skeleton who should have no reason of being the hero, but for some reason you are, you know, the underdog story. But the really cool thing is the way it works is you have these combos, like these different loadouts. So normally you're just running around, you're a little skeleton dude, and you start off where you can throw your head at people and you can teleport where your head goes, essentially. And it does damage. And then you can also whack them with a bone sword that you have. But then you keep finding other just skeleton like heads throughout the game in different facets. And all of those will have different types of abilities. So you'll have like a different type of attack. Like there's one where you are literally like this Grim Reaper character that has like the scythe and everything. There's one where you turn into a ninja, one where you turn into a werewolf, like all of these different kinds. And you can always have two heads at once and you're swapping back and forth between them. And the really cool thing, very much to the roguelike or roguelite aesthetic, is all of these different heads will have like different abilities or combos that will randomly generate between like a couple of them. So you'll have like a varied different skill type that you might get in each run. So it's good because there's that like, oh, I know who the werewolf is, but I might get a different skill each time that I play it. And there's like a list of, you know, like 3 or so that you can go through. And then each run you are collecting these bones. Like if you don't like one of the skull heads, you can recycle them and you can turn them into bones, which is like a currency for that run, where you can then upgrade those types of loadouts, those different skulls. So you can have an even stronger werewolf, or you could just go through and try to buy upgrades. And there's a number of items that you can get and different abilities. And there's like a lot of very complex mechanics in this that go a little bit deeper. But honestly, when you first play it, what you're going to get is frustrated because there's just so much going on. And it's just very unfair in a lot of ways. But a lot of the game is really understanding that like you have a dash mechanic and you're invulnerable in that moment. So it's learning to time things properly and playing. It's a lot of a get good kind of game in those senses. But I really like the mechanics and the cutesy art style to it. Because honestly, and it's a weird reminder, but what it reminds me of is I used to be a big fan of MapleStory, the MMO from like a long time ago. Like when I was a kid, I used to love the game. And honestly, Skul reminds me so much of just a good MapleStory combat game, of like taking those same mechanics of like the craziness to it and the way the art and animation is and just making it like fun in a way. So
I love the subtle shitting on MapleStory. It's like MapleStory but good.
Yeah, because like, you know, I played MapleStory for a long time and it was more of like the community based thing of like I had friends who played it, but like it was a grind fest. Granted, this one kind of is too because you're trying to just like get resources to upgrade your character to get better, but the game is a lot of fun. I've played it I think I've died probably like 20 times so far. The farthest I've got is beating the 3rd boss and then getting to the 4th one, which I think there's only 5 bosses, but they're pretty tough, man. They get harder. You have mini bosses in between each one, and the cool thing is each one of these runs is randomly generated in the different levels you're gonna get. So it like you're going to start noticing the same type of level, and eventually as you keep playing you get kind of like, I've already seen this, but like it does add a little bit of that acceptance of like, okay, this is okay because it's a little bit different, right? It's a little varied. I can't say that this is a game that I would put hours and hours and hours and hours into, but I think it's a fun roguelite. I think people who like this type of challenging combat should definitely try it out. And I think like honestly the coolest thing is the different loadouts, like those different skull heads and getting the different combos and things. Like it's so cool. There's like a God of War one, there's a Dead Cells one, there's one that looks like the Butcher from Diablo. Like there's a lot of like subtle hints or not so subtle hints in some of them that are just really cool spin-offs to games that we already know and love. I'm enjoying it anyway.
This
It
game
looks so
fucking
good.
sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Oh my god. It looks so awesome. And the like whole mechanic of like watching him just take off his own head and throw it at people. I'm
Yeah.
like, what the fuck is that? That's
Yeah.
so cool. Oh my god. I have to buy this game. Fuck. You know what annoys me is when this game initially came out on Kickstarter, I requested a code, got no confirmation. Nobody said anything. Fucking Josh requested a code just the other day. They gave him one. I was like, asshole.
Oh, what are you gonna do?
It looks halfway between like, is that game called Chasm, where it has that like?
Yes.
Okay, it looks halfway between Chasm and Rogue Legacy, and like I'm super vibing on the art and the animation.
Yeah, so Rogue Legacy is a great comparison, especially in like the difficulty of it. Of like there's a good element of like jankiness in this, where the animation to a lot of the characters sometimes will feel a bit unforgiving, but it's still like really good. And as you get skilled, like it feels a lot better. But yeah, it's a really good comparison matchup there.
And it's only on PC right now.
I believe that is correct. Let me do a quick check. But yeah, I haven't seen it anywhere else other than PC.
Yeah,
I've
I'm
never heard
thinking
of
that
these
it's
guys.
only on PC.
Yeah, only
I've
PC.
Never heard of SouthPAW games before, so this looks
No.
badass.
This looks sweet. I'm honestly like really, really surprised. It's seemingly clicking on SouthPAW games. They seem to be like somewhat affiliated with multiple different games. Like I played Metal Unit, but I'm fairly certain that they're just like tangentially related to them because of their publisher. It's all kind of weird, but game looks super fucking cool. I'm gonna have to buy this because it seems really sweet, even though I know I'm gonna be fucking terrible at it. Like, it just looks so cool. Do you know? The one thing I would really like to know is, you said like basically there's like a randomization to the environments themselves.
Yep.
Is that in any way tied into the narrative? Is there a narrative reason that is happening? Or is it just like there's a narrative like just associated with the game itself and then that just kind of happens as an aside?
Yeah, no, the narrative, the long running narrative is you getting to this specific kingdom to save someone. But your road to get there, the reason for the landscape changing each time, it doesn't exist. It's different because it's part of the game, right? That's just the mechanic to it. But there's no like, oh, there's magic that's making it different. Like, no, they don't try to explain that. They're just like, the road is different, whatever.
Oh, okay. I thought it would be really cool if they like associated that in some way. Like I played Chronos Before the Ashes, and it's like a Souls-like game. It doesn't really change anything, but every time you die, you come back 1 year older. And as like basically because the entire idea of this is that every time you die, the gate closes, and then you have to like come back a year later. And your basically your stats slowly diminish. It's kind of annoying, but it doesn't actually change. But I was thinking it might be cool if, like in a roguelike, essentially the reason that it's actually changing is because it's a year past or something like that. Like it's actually showing the passage of time.
Right. That just actually reminded me. There's a good point about this. At the end, every time you die, there's text at the top that says your enemy grows stronger because of your defeat. Like basically saying like they're gaining experience for you. So I started freaking out and I was like, fuck, the enemies are going to get harder. They don't. It's a joke. The developer literally said, they were like, yeah, no, I just put that in there.
Still, that's such a cool concept though. Like just imagining being on the other side of this, like you are what would be known as the villain in a standard RPG, but it turns out that they're gaining experience from fucking killing you.
Which I thought was
such a cool
I
thing.
thought was super cool. And in the like the thread where the developer said that, someone after was like, you're just a skeleton. It's like 1 XP. They'll never level up. And I was like, that is a legit theory to go off of.
I don't know, dude. Fucking, I'm playing some Dark Souls 2. Them skeletons are like little bitch asses to kill. So I don't fucking know. This game looks super, super cool. Once again, this is Skul the Hero Slayer. Oh, Skul the Hero Slayer by SouthPAW Games. It is currently, I believe, only available on Steam, possibly somewhere else, but I'm not 100% certain. But it is, it does have a 20% discount right now. That's only going to be lasting until the day this goes live, or no, the day after this goes live for patrons. So I'm going to make sure I tweet about it. Make sure to follow us at IndiePod on Twitter to get notifications for sweet deals and stuff like this. But for all of our patrons, check this shit out. We've got Inez over in the Discord who's going on about this, and so is Errol and Mix. Like, everybody's talking about this fucking game. It looks sweet as hell, and I'm gonna have to buy this shit. It looks so cool. But Josh, you were also playing Cyber Shadow by Mechanical Head Studios. Tell me about your experience and how you are so much better at video games than me. I guess actually we can all talk about this one since we've all been playing it.
All of us are playing it, which is super cool. I think that's awesome. But I'm not surprised because it's a pretty, like, for indie games, I feel like it's got a pretty like wide recognition. Yeah. But 100%. It's fun. So from my side, or for people who don't know anything about this is essentially like a very close to, like, it makes sense that Shovel Knight, the people behind Shovel Knight, are publishing this and helping creating this game, because it's very much the same concept of like old retro game taken to a more like a more present day view of it, but still using the same aesthetic. It is a very, in some ways, challenging game in especially certain parts, and I think at the same time a very like fair game. They've done things where, even though it has that same retro feel of what most people would associate this with, which is Ninja Gaiden, it has a lot of, like, some people will complain about the checkpoints and things like that in this game, but like, honestly, this game has saved my ass so many times. When you kill a boss but don't save, it'll fucking remember you killed the boss. And I was like, at first I was like, well, that's dumb because it's not really that challenging. And then I beat a hard boss and then died immediately after. And I was like, thank God it does this.
This game hard. It's so hard.
100%, dude. I've died so many times. I loved seeing people's like death counts, and they're like, I died 400 times. I was like, great. This is just gonna suck. But no, that is like, the checkpoints are so sparse. It annoys the shit out of me having to do the same things over and over again. And I'm just like, can I just hit a fucking checkpoint already? Oh my God. Like, it's so annoying in these same few areas. But then it does keep the bosses, and the thing I think is the coolest is that environmental factors actually continue as well. So I got to the point where, like, you kick up that laser and it starts shooting, and you don't have to do that again. Like, it just keeps going. So I don't have to do that. I got
wrecked by that laser again. Right away.
I fucking get wrecked by that laser every time, dude. I won't think about it, and then I'll be like, ha, 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 and then just like randomly it'll be like, and just totally fuck me up every time. It's hilarious.
How do you feel about the art style? Because like, if I had one complaint, I usually love to try to be positive about stuff. How would you describe it? Because I didn't love it. I don't know if it like depressed me a little bit.
It's very gritty.
Yeah, it's very gritty and gray and muted, and like, maybe not. Like, I was going in expecting like, okay, cool, this is going to be like a yacht club game where it's going to be lots of color and it's going to be great, and it is not that at all. It is something different. It's fine, but maybe not my vibe.
Yeah, I think it's like coming into the scenario with Yacht Club in some way attached to it. A lot of people are going to think it's going to pull like somewhat of a Shovel Knight feel, where everything seems kind of like cartoony and weird and fun, right. But Cyber Shadow is much, much different. Like, it's about your like entire clan of ninjas basically being wiped out, and you just like snatching their essence as they fucking die. Like, it's kind of messed up. The thing that I would actually associate the art style with more closely would be Axiom Verge. It reminds me a lot more of that art style, but a little bit less grotesque and disgusting, which I appreciate.
That is a perfect way to describe it.
Yeah, I enjoy the art style a lot. But I definitely see how coming into this, like, a lot of people are going to think that because like the game literally starts up and the splash screen is Yacht Club before it's Mechanical Head Studio, which I think is so weird. This is very similar to like The Order 1886, where they booted it up and it had Santa Monica Studio before it had Ready at Dawn. Like, it's such a weird thing to do. But I think a lot of people are going to initially associate this with Yacht Club, but once you get over that hump, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, it's not meant to be like Shovel Knight, but other than in the fact that it's like an homage to a relatively dead game style. Like, kind
have you put on the CTR filter for it?
No.
Mm-mm.
Oh,
I didn't even know there was like filters or anything.
Oh my God. Yeah. They have a really cool filter for like a second. It's really cool. And then you're like, why would you do this? Where they put in this filter where you can make it feel very retro, like as if you are on a very old school big ass TV. And they can also make it so not only does that filter have it, but you can turn it into like a shitty TV that has like issues, that is like all like wubby. Like
I love that.
It looks so cool that they had that idea, but then you start playing with it. Like when I was on stream, Will was like, put the CTR filter on, and I put it on and I played for like a second, and I was like, my eyes hurt. I can't do this.
Did you play Gato Roboto? It reminds me of like the palette swaps there, and how one of them is just urine. Like, why is that there? Am I gonna play with that? No, but like I'm so happy it's there.
Yeah. No, it's I can't say like I'm one way or the other on the graphics. Like I don't love them, I don't hate them, I guess is the way that I would put it. Like I understand the aesthetic of it being that retro feel, but like, do I think that it probably would have been cooler if they just had a different style and had it more polished and like stylized? I'd probably be more into it, but like I get the retro piece to it. Like that's what they're trying to go for. And then they just took a really dark approach because of the theme. So like it makes sense, but yeah, I could see it just not being your thing, you know?
Mm-hmm. It reminded me a lot of like the Robotnik levels from the Genesis Sonic games, like the final levels, how they're always like mechanized and like a lot of gray, which like I played this game on Game Pass, so I just like downloaded it and I'm like, oh, there's no risk here. I'm just gonna grab this and try it. And I can't tell you if I'm gonna like stick to it. Like I love like everything else Yacht Club has done. Basically all the Shovel Knight games. Yeah. But I don't know if I'm gonna stick to this. And that's okay, because I played an hour, I enjoyed what I played. It's very difficult. I'm a soft boy, and like maybe it's not for everybody.
So are you thinking you're not going to continue because it's difficult, or because of the art style?
It's hard, and it's also
so hard, dude.
Yeah, it's hard and like maybe a little gray. So like it's great. I can be like, this is a great game. Maybe not a great game for this soft boy. It's hard.
I fucking love the soft boy thing. So when Shovel Knight Dig comes out, are you going to be super into it?
Yes.
Obviously, it's like a completely different gameplay scenario, but okay, you're going to dive deep? All right.
Literally.
The one thing I love most about Cyber Shadow's like art style is the fact that it is so well tuned to what I feel the narrative is, where like everything looks dark and dingy and gross kind of, and it's like, yeah, it fucking should. It's an apocalypse. Like it shouldn't look good. It's kind of like how I might get annoyed by it that I can't make walls with no holes in Fallout 4, but where the fuck would I find a wall without a hole in a nuclear apocalypse? Like it doesn't exist. So I totally get it. Ultimately, I think the game is really fun. It is so fucking hard, though. How many bosses are you in, Josh?
I beat chapter 6. I think I'm on 7 right now. So there's a number of them. Because there's like bosses in between as well. It's not like only one boss at the end of each. But
yeah. Jacob, how far are you?
Chapter 2. Not far at all.
Same, dude. Fuck yeah.
Hard.
Kindred spirits. It's so fucking hard, dude. Yeah. I've died so many times. Like, literally, I keep going into the second area and stuff like that. Like, I beat the boss who looks like a Power Ranger. Let's be real. He looks like a Power Ranger. So I beat him, and then I can't get to the first checkpoint in that fucking place. It keeps happening. I just keep dying, and I'm like, oh, dude, I get so fucking pissed at this game. Like, I'm so glad I didn't pay anything for it because it's so fucking hard.
There was like a level before the boss, or a section before the first boss, where it was just like jumping around a bunch of like little lasers that are blooping at you, and I couldn't get it. It took me at least 20 times because I'm bad at games. I love them so much. Bad at them.
Man, it's so nice to have other people on the podcast that understand what it's like to be bad at video games.
But you love them so much, and they just hurt you. That's all they do.
100%, dude. Yeah. Like, literally every experience I have with a video game, I'm like, I wish I could love you so much more, but you're a piece of shit. I fucking hate you.
I mean, I will say, to kind of be on your same level, I made the mistake the other night of trying to play this game drunk. So much harder.
Are you saying you played this game drunk, like in the game you somehow like got yourself drunk, similar to Deep Rock Galactic? How you fucking catfished me on that?
No, I was just drunk and I was like, I gotta play some Cyber Shadow, and it was much, much harder.
Now you know what it's like to play how we play.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, he has to play with a handicap, so he understands what it's like. Dude, I can't wait for us to do our book club on this and just have so many people write in and be like, "E hard."
Yeah.
I can't beat it.
I'm gonna TM that, mail myself that later, and make some T-shirts. Yo, hard.
It's so fucking hard, dude. Oh my god. So, speaking of hard video games, Josh, you are also playing Celeste 2, but would you like to wait on this one until we do the news article?
We can. It's up to you. I don't mind talking about it, but we can just
we'll
hold it for
hold
now.
on it just because I feel like that's a really interesting way to do that. So now we're going to move over to Jacob. Of course, we've already talked about Cyber Shadow, but let's talk about Night Call. I'm assuming these are both the developers, similar to how they do that on Steam sometimes, or did you separate this based on developer and publisher?
No, I just copy-pasted from the Wikipedia article where it said the developers are Monkey Moon and BlackMuffin, which are great developer names. This one's another one on Game Pass. For a long time, I thought it was NeoCab, but NeoCab is an entirely different game.
100%.
Played Night Call. Came out I think about a year and a half ago, and essentially tells a story of a cabbie. Well, let me take a step back. It is like 3 cases within the game where they're all played in Paris, and you play as a taxi driver. And at least in the first case that I played, which is like a self-contained story, it took like 2 hours to go through. You play as a cabbie who has to help solve a murder that you were implicated in. So basically someone like murdered someone in front of you, then beat the crap out of you, end up in a hospital, and you show up driving your cab later, and a police officer is like, "Hey, you're kind of implicated in this crime, so like we'd love you to be a CI for us." So it is a like I guess like a text-based adventure, like an adventure game where you are you play this cab driver and you go around Paris picking up people and like gathering clues about this murder, and like at the end constructing who you think the murderer is. So it's like a very interesting game. Like, it's a little rough around the edges, and it definitely will not be for everybody. But I appreciated like the art style of it. There was some really interesting conversations within the game. At one point, you pick up like 2 kids, and they like take you through like a very small D&D campaign, which was like super fun. And then there's another conversation that you have with someone in the back about Brexit. So it's like right after Brexit happened. And you have a conversation. She's pregnant, and her husband is from, I think, Germany or something. And she walks you through her entire logic of like, hey, when Brexit was happening, like, I thought that everyone was crazy, but like, I guess it happened. And then you like point blank ask her, you're like, you have a kid on the way, your husband is from outside the UK, like, how did you vote? And she says like, I actually voted to leave because for me, like, I thought that what I had now wasn't great, and that these promises of like a better UK is the reason why I voted for it. Like, I didn't love the people, but it was a promise of a better UK. And so there's like some really great writing kind of dispersed in there. But I think it's a bit of a one-trick pony. As you'll play it once, you'll play one case of it, and you'll probably be like, that was fun, I love that. But I don't know if I need to play all 3 cases. So if you have Xbox Game Pass, Night Call is like a very sick game to just pick up, download, play one of the cases, see if you like it. There is a very low bar to enter with Xbox Game Pass, but I would recommend at least taking a look at the trailer, because the vibe of it is like very noir. And I don't know if you guys played the game The Lion Song. That one came out. It's another like adventure game that came out, I want to say about 2 years ago, and the art style reminded me a little bit of that. But if you're vibing with the kind of noir art style in Paris, like, I would definitely give it a try. It was a fun way to spend an evening.
So I know I shouldn't do this because you're our guest, but I love the way that you shit on Cyber Shadow for being gray, and then your first example is, let me use this black and white game, how cool it is.
Yeah, let me tell you about this noir game that I love so much, and yet Cyber Shadow, hate that. Yeah, I'm a great critic.
I'm just kidding, man. I like, while you were talking, I started thinking about that, and I was like, What the fuck is
Hold
this guy
on.
doing? What is
Hold
that?
on.
Hold on.
You know what it is? It's just because the game was hard, so I probably was finding ways to
No,
like,
come on.
dig at
No,
it.
because I agree with you on some regards, but I'm just messing with you. But like Nightcall actually seems interesting. The one thing I did want to ask though, because you mentioned that at the end of it you get to pick like who the person is, right? Is this a case where you can get this wrong kind of a thing?
Yeah, it is.
So it's
and
basically
I,
like LA Noire, where you can like accidentally fucking arrest the wrong person. Just like, ah, shit. Fuck, that was my bad.
I would almost say like that's like the least the weakest part of this game is like the investigation part of it. So like you're gathering clues as you talk to people, and it's a little nonsensical in the way that like I kind of guessed at who I thought it was, to be honest with you. Like I narrowed it down to two people. I had clues that fit with both, and I was like, this guy seems shady. Let's go with him. And I was right, and it turned out that you could pick another person, and it would just kind of boot you back to say, like, that's not the right answer. Like, why don't you reload and figure it out? So
I love the fact that they just give you, like, they're like,
They're
nope,
like, good
like,
try.
let's see if you could do it again, you know?
game over, like one of those things.
Yeah.
But, like, honestly, it was a lot of fun, and there was some really good writing in it. I don't think I'm gonna go back and play the other two cases, but like I'm happy that I spent the time like going through that one story because it's cool. It's a cool game.
The thing I found the funniest about this, like not even the like gray palette color, but in a way like associated with that, is that you said you thought you were playing NeoCab for a little bit, and just the two games are so fucking
different.
Like,
I thought there was
mean-
only one cab game that come out at the same time, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, which one's on Apple Arcade and which one's like here? I got it super wrong, but I do want to play NeoCab at some point. This is not NeoCab.
Yeah, or you're playing like Cloud Taxi next time, and you're just like, I don't understand. I thought this was like an adventure game, and you're just like actually driving the fucking taxi.
Oh,
Like, what's happening?
bad, very bad. There are more than one taxi game. Surprise.
Yeah,
would've thought?
right.
Is this Crazy Taxi? I don't know.
I know.
What did the guy say in that game in Crazy Taxi? It's
I
a
love-
crazy taxi.
Good times.
This game looks really cool. I like the like dark, the really like dark and somber like art style. I would assume it fits the tone of a lot of the different, like it would be so weird for somebody to hop in your cab and tell you about how fucking awesome their life was. They're just like, yeah, dude, it's fucking sweet. Like I just got this new job promotion and everything. Like it would be so off-putting, but I really enjoy the way it seems to depict a lot of these characters. There's like this shady ass dude. Like I'm just seeing like screenshots and stuff, but they do this interesting thing where there's this shady ass dude like sitting in the back of your seat, but the only thing you see is the reflection of their glasses. And for some reason, that's just such a creepy thing to do. Like, I feel like there's just so many amazing emotions that you can evoke with noir that color actually kind of, like, distracts from, in a sense. Like, that's why I think Sin City is so interesting, and you can, like, they pull focus using, like, other colors. Like, there's that one guy that's fucking yellow, and it's gross. But then, like, everything else is just black and white. And I love the way that in, like, a noir aesthetic, they can pull your focus just by having, like, very, very simple things notable, like the reflection of glasses just looking so fucking creepy. Like I think that's really cool. Game looks cool. I'll never play it because I'm a little dumb and I would 100% get this wrong every fucking time. I'd be like, nah, dude. Did you ever play Wolf Among Us?
Yeah.
Did you actually, like, when you got to the end of it and you beat the game, did you feel like you chose the correct person? Because,
No.
yeah, me neither. I fucking, like, the whole thing, it basically makes it seem like there was one guy. You're like, you are the piece of shit. And then once the credits roll, you're like, wait, what?
Yeah. There's a big question mark like a minute before the credits happen, and you're just
Yeah.
like, wait, what?
Yeah, when the bow comes off and you're like, what? Hold up. Like, did that just happen? Like, that's what makes me want Wolf Among Us 2 so badly. So, like, I think games like this are really cool. I mean, it did sound like kind of a bummer when you, like, basically said that you could choose the wrong person. Then it's like, just, like, try again. Like, you didn't say the magic word. Just rewind. Let's see what really happened. Like, that kind of sucks because I like the idea of you accidentally being able to, like, prison somebody who didn't get it. Like, who didn't do anything fucking wrong just because they were creepy. Like, I think that's really cool. But, you know, this ain't LA Noire.
Cool
Fucking-
game.
Yeah.
Cool game. Night Call.
Cool shit. Cool shit. So the last game that you have been playing, other than Cyber Shadow, did you want to hit on anything else for Cyber Shadow before we move on to normal people?
No, and again, Normal People and is a TV show, so I don't know
That's
if
what
that's a
I
thing
thought.
we want to talk about.
There was like TV on here, and I was just like, wait, is that like you watching this or okay?
I was watching
no,
it, so it said, what are you playing, watching? So I'm like, I can't stop watching this show. So if I could talk about it, I will. But it's a video game podcast, so I get it if I can't.
Dude,
But
Well, let's talk
you know
about
what?
it.
I need you to talk about this because Normal People is fucking amazing.
ah!
I loved it.
Normal
It's
People,
so
let's
good.
talk about it.
I even bought the book. Like after I
Same.
finished the series, I bought the book. I've heard that the book is a little bit weird in the way that it portrays the emotions. But I'm actually really looking forward to reading it. So, fuck it, dude. Let's talk about Normal People because I never get to talk about fun shit with Big
Yeah.
Josh Boy. Tell us about this this TV series. I believe it's like a mini series. I don't know if it's on anything other than Hulu. That's where I watched it.
If you are outside of the United States, it's on different stuff. I watched it on CBC Gem, but you can. There's one of your patrons is Canadian. He's gonna go, I know what that is.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Canadian streaming services. That's what's up. But you can buy it on Apple TV Plus too if you wanted to. It's like $20. It's totally worth it. It just tells the story of like two Irish like kindred spirits, I guess, who meet in high school and like I don't want to say fall in love, but like have a very complicated relationship, and it tells their story of how their lives like intertwine over like a 5-year period from high school until the end of university, and it is like very raw and very intimate. And I've been trying to chase the high of watching this show for like weeks, and I can't because I've watched it 3 times. I won't lie to you, like I've watched
Damn.
it, and I don't do that. And I've been trying to like chase the high, and I just can't find something that that replicates the high of this 12-episode miniseries. Did you said that you watched it? Did you watch it when it first came out or recently?
I watched it, I believe a couple months after it first came out. I saw it on Hulu while, like, by the way, 2 of our patrons are actually Canadian, so Chris Penwell and Sam are probably going to
That's
actually
true.
notice this. But, yeah, no, I watched it just a couple months after it came out, and, sorry, we'll get on to the indie game that I've been playing, but I just got to talk about this. I initially hopped into it because I'm actually a big fan of like romance in media and everything, like basically everything that pops up that has anything to do with like a coming of age story or romance, like I watch the shit out of it and
Same.
I love it. So have you ever watched A Silent Voice?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, you should watch it then. Like it's much more dramatic than this would be, but the thing I loved about Normal People is the way it ties in basically like being in abusive relationships and actually kind of like how you like Cullen is initially kind of this like high school star, even though he kind of puts on this mask of being so. He's not like that at all for the most part. Like you especially see that when he's with, I believe her name is either Marie or Mary. It starts with an M. But like the way he is with her is so much different than he is with his friends, and how that moves on. And then later on you get to see that like even his friend actually was very broken, and it's kind of just like a story of completely broken people, but you realize that it's like this is a more accurate portrayal of how humanity actually is than most things that involve romance. So I very much enjoy it. But if you're looking for something to chase the high, check out A Silent Voice. It will make you want to die, but it's good shit. It's
man,
very good shit.
making me want to die is entirely my vibe, so I'm definitely gonna check this out. I've been trying to chase the high with like Drake Doremus movies. I don't know if you're like he did what movies did he do? Endings, Beginnings. He did Like Crazy with Anton Yelchin and Jennifer Lawrence and Felicity Jones. And so I've been watching his movies that kind of give me the same feeling, but I'm going to have to check this out later. A Silent Voice, thank you.
I don't have anything to
yeah.
add to this, but that was a pretty nice bubble pop there.
Yeah. Well,
Indie games!
so the last game that I'm going to talk about today is called Tiny Lands. It is by Hyper 3 Studio. It's actually kind of interesting. So it's basically you have 2 different pictures for the most part. They're like 3D pictures that you can twirl around, and it's just like Where's Waldo, with the exception of you just have to find 5 differences between the two things. The thing I actually kind of enjoy about it is it's kind of like those. They basically took everything from the like smooth hip hop jams to study to kind of a thing. They basically took all of those songs and then put it into these games, but then also added in these like unique environmental sounds that only exist based on the actual things within an image. So like there was one image that I popped onto that was like I had yet to have any like people or animals in an image, so other than fish. So then there was one that came up with like horses, and it had this like nice beat. It sounded good, but then it actually kind of mixed it in with like the clopping of horses' hooves, and it was really, really cool, and I liked it. It does, like, I will admit, the puzzles aren't extremely hard. It's basically just like spot the difference.
Right.
But like it can get a little bit old once you realize the things are just looping. You're just like, okay, here comes the horse, here comes this thing. But initially when you hop into a puzzle, it's pretty fucking dope.
This looks so cool.
It's really cool. I mean,
it seems very relaxing and chill.
100%. Super, super relaxing and chill. The only thing that I would say might actually be kind of a turnoff for some people is that it's really not gameplay oriented or anything like that. Literally, it's like when you were a fucking kid, you're chilling there, you're looking at a Where's Waldo book. That is what this is. 100%. With like a little bit of ambient noise that is a lot of fun to like kind of just jam out to. It's only $6.99, and I feel like that's actually like a pretty decent price considering what this game offers. But I feel like it's a nice thing to have in like COVID times because a lot of people are trying to find things to relax to, and I think this is a lot of fun. Plus, it doesn't have like they have like stars that you can get in each level, but as far as I have gotten, which I've done like multiple levels, I have yet to get less than 5 stars, and it doesn't have like a time limit in which you need to actually like solve anything, which I think is great because it kind of breaks the whole like this is a cool, like really nice and simple thing. You just move along. It's very calm. I feel like it would totally break that if we ended up getting something like fucking, I don't know. It was just like, you got to do this in 5 minutes. And you're just like, ah, kind of thing. Like,
yeah,
I think that
goes
totally
against
break
the whole
immersion.
vibe, right? Like,
yeah,
it's supposed to be
exactly.
a chill experience.
And does it
100%.
spin the whole time you're playing it?
No.
Does the vibe, the perspective reminded me a lot of like The Gardens Between or like Captain Toad. Is that kind of what it feels like to play? I know those are different games entirely, but the perspective seems similar.
No, yeah, it doesn't spin all the time. You get to choose when it spins. That's what's actually kind of nice. It took me so long to solve the first puzzle because I didn't realize I could spin it. And it's like some of the things are behind like mounds and stuff like that. So you actually do have to like spin it to check it out. But yeah, no, the perspective is really, really awesome. And the way it plays with that is really interesting, where you wouldn't actually realize that certain things aren't the same length. Like there was one thing that it was like 2 different tapestries. One was slightly longer than the other, but I couldn't notice it until I looked at it from a specific like place. And then I was like, oh, that's so obvious. But I was over here and had to spin it all the way around just to notice it. I also do like that mechanic is also very slow, and it moves very slowly around, so it's not like really fast and erratic. I like that as well. It kind of like everything that goes into this game is just trying to make this like really, really calming and soothing. It's something that you might play just like a couple rounds of being like, oh, this is kind of fun, just like do. It's not going to be something you hop into and fucking hate yourself or anything like Cyber Shadow or seemingly Skull the Hero. So just had to like calm people down after all of these like really fucked up games that
What's
we've been
the opposite
playing.
of hard? Is soft?
It's squishy. That's what this is.
I don't know about this one.
But that is all of the stuff that we have been playing and or watching. So it is time for us to hop into our main news stories. Our first news story is over on IGN. It is written by Adam Bankhurst, and it is seasoned developer indefinitely suspends co-founder, CEO temporarily steps down after toxic workplace harassment allegations. Scavengers Studio, the developer of the Darwin Project and the upcoming seasons, has issued an official statement regarding the toxic workplace allegations levied against the studio's co-founder, Simon Darvier, and Amélie
Lamarche.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow, look at that. Look at that.
He lives in Canada. I'm just going to chalk it up to that. People are like French Canadian, right? They do that.
That's why we had you on for this episode.
100%, dude. Now I'm just going to skip that name again so I don't have to try it. Who is Scavengers Studio CEO said in the statement that the company wishes to apologize for the harm caused and that it is taking these allegations seriously. Additionally, it is committed to doing better for our employees and our fans and our partners. The studio held an emergency board of directors meeting to decide on the best course of action moving forward and is enacting the following changes immediately. Simon Darvier, is indefinitely suspended from all responsibilities within the company and from the board of directors. An external auditing firm will conduct an independent workplace assessment and audit of our culture and practices, which I really feel like that's okay. Like, obviously I'm going to keep going, but I feel like the key component there is that it is an external auditing team. That's one thing that a lot of people talk about when coming forward with allegations of abuse, is that they will go to people within these organizations and then those people then defend the abuser. Like they're being like, not necessarily, because false accusal exists. We shouldn't act like it doesn't, but there's also the thing where like a lot of people are basically told by HR that they have nothing to go on. Like I actually had a friend that I worked with at my last job, and he was constantly like bullied by our bosses. But when he eventually went to HR, they were just like, we don't have like a write-up policy or anything that we can do. Like they basically just said like, we can't do anything. And it's just so fucked up to think about that. So I think it's amazing that they're having somebody come in and audit them from the outside. They're auditing their culture, and I think it's all really awesome. I think it's fantastic. What do you guys think about that? Jacob, do you think it's important that it's external?
Yeah, I totally do. And I've heard some folks say that like human resource departments are not there to are there to manage the human resources within the company, right? So that their interests are at times aligned with management, not aligned with the resources that they manage, right? So I agree with you wholeheartedly that like having an external party come in, it seems like they're a smaller team, but to have like an external party come in this situation, I think is the best way to go. And I appreciate, because it's not always communicated. I mean, look at some of the other big companies that have had issues and like aren't fully disclosing everything that's happening within the company. I appreciate that they were very honest about it and saying like, hey, look, here's everything that's happening, and an external firm is coming in.
Yeah, 100%. What do you think, Josh?
I think it definitely makes sense. I'm interested to see really like what brought about this much change, because like it had to be a seriously bad environment. If you looked at previous, like there was an article on IGN previously about certain examples of this, of how like women were treated poorly as opposed to men, how the higher ups were essentially picking favorites, and just those were like the in crew, and others were basically shit on or were told like you're not as good as us. And it's interesting that it blew up to this point. Like the problem is, it seems like it had to be, you know, so big of an issue that eventually all of these people had to step in. And it's like, okay, well, one, I want to know like what was their breaking point, just out of curiosity. And two is like, what are they doing after this? Because like my concern is with a lot of these companies is they put in a lot of like the the band-aid of, okay, let's fix it. We'll bring in this internal team. We'll audit it. We'll blah, blah, blah. Like, what are the steps going forward after that, right? Like, that's what I want to see is like how they make sure and what processes they put in place to change that workplace for good. Because I think this is kind of the issue in a lot of companies is just that they usually do something when something blows up, right? They probably only did this, like this would have probably kept continuing if like one or two people didn't speak up and it just kind of kept sitting there and stagnant. And like maybe if it was the IGN article or maybe it was some other article or something that kind of like had boiled up until this became like a real thing. But like I'm glad for one, like let's not go against the issue of like at least they are taking some action. I think it makes sense that the CEO should step down for that time being. It's interesting that they'll still be like there for the project, which I guess is good in some ways, but I think it depends on how much they're really involved as far as like what they're actually doing on the day-to-day for that moment. But I think it makes sense that like clearly the leadership team dropped the ball. So like they should take a step back and let the external team, who probably has a better handle on this, take over for the time being. But I don't know. It's hard to say without knowing, like the full story or like, not that I'm saying I'm sure they're in the wrong. Like that's not what I'm trying to say, but like, I don't know like the full extent to like what has happened or what is changing, so to speak.
Yeah, and like nine people came forward, so it's not like one person that's saying there's a problem. It was 9 people, right? So
right.
I also think about like Ubisoft. That was last year, where they had a bunch of allegations come out, and I don't necessarily think that they handled in the best way. They put out an announcement like in a video, not during their big press conference, saying like, "Hey, we hear you." And here are the things that we're doing, which a lot of them didn't seem to do what this does, where it was like, hey, we're going to make a safer work environment. We're going to have a mechanism for people to report harassment accusations, and we're going to revisit company code. And like the good thing is they're going to hire like a new head of diversity, but like where is like I understand you're a publicly traded company, but at the same time, like there are other steps that you could share to make customers feel good and probably make employees feel good too about the company they're working for. So we've talked it to death, but I really appreciate how they've said like, hey, this is clearly exactly what we're doing, and bringing in an external team is a big piece of that.
Yep.
Yeah, and I feel like one of the things that's so crazy about all of this is like the secrecy that often goes on with a lot of this, like with harassment allegations, where they're like, oh, we want to keep it secret. Like once it comes out, they're like, oh yeah, they somewhat try to sweep it under the rug, but they seem to not understand that like it just silently going away without some big uproar is actually more concerning than it not. Right. Because people want transparency. Like you said, it like makes the customer and it makes the company or the people within the company feel a lot better knowing that something actually got shook up. If something just silently disappears, like one person loses their job and then never talks about it, you're just like, okay, but why? It kind of gives you that uneasy feeling where you're just like, what's happening right now? Like something sketchy just happened, versus like, I hate to look at it like this, but it's actually really good PR if you blow up. Like, yeah, your like studio is going to seem shitty for a second. Like they'll be like, look at all these harassment allegations, but then you also get to be like, these are all of the things that we are doing to change it. And I don't know why that transparency doesn't exist more often, because it is good for PR.
I think the reason why is because yes, it could be their redemption story, but this could also be the story of them failing, right? This could be them taking this step. They get all these processes in place, and I don't think they will, because I think they are on the right track, but like they could still fail, and them failing and using that transparency then becomes more of that conditioning that like, oh, this is a bad company, don't support them, they have bad practices, they have XYZ. So like I understand the reason for a company wanting to be less transparent, even though I don't agree with it. I think they should, because I think that enables people to help others and to have more of a chance for that redemption story. But like you do put yourself at a risk. Like transparency comes with a risk. Whether it I think it's a good thing or not, there is always going to be that amount of letting people know anything about you attracts that possibility of something negatively occurring.
Scavengers is also privately held, right? So like, not to say that there's less accountability, but like they're not accountable to shareholders. And I feel like such a heel even like having this conversation that like that has to be a consideration because it's so terrible. But like that is also a consideration that they could probably take more steps and be more transparent about it because they're not beholden to Wall Street or whatever exchange they're on.
I mean, that's kind of the whole...
They don't have to worry about their dropping like a shitload of points, similar to like CD Projekt Red, because like it comes out that they did a whole bunch of fucked up shit.
Right. Yeah, that becomes the whole point of like why there's a lot of, praise for indie studios, because they have the opportunity to do these things, because they're not, chained down to some other kind of process, because usually it's just them, but that comes with other risks, so like it just depends.
Yeah, absolutely. The article goes on to say that Daisy Lily Best, currently Director of Operations, is appointed as Chief Operating Officer and will be reporting directly to the Board of Directors for the duration of the audit to ensure complete transparency and accountability. The audit report will be shared in its entirety with the team and presented by Daisy to the board for further actions to be taken, which I think is also really, really great. Furthermore, to ensure a transparent, fair, and unbiased process, Lamar will be stepping down as from her role as CEO for the duration of the audit. She will, however, remain available to support the studio's normal course of business. Lamar ends by saying asking for the patience of the community as it goes through this process, and that the team has full confidence in the creative director of Seasons and will continue to support the amazing work of our talented team. Yeah, I feel so weird saying it, but it's like, it's kind of the way I try to live, is that like, if you don't have any secrets, nobody can hold anything against you, kind of a thing. It's like when you keep something a secret, it means that it's wrong, kind of a thing. But once you come out and just start talking about it, like it makes it actually shows that you understand who you are and that you need to fix things. That's why I constantly tell people I'm a shitty person. It's just it's like, I'm working on it, dude. I know I'm fucked up. Like, don't worry. But let's talk about some fun news stories before we just hop into more, just like dark pits of despair, just the fun stuff. So over on IGN, we continue with Jordan Oloman. They write, platforming modern classic Celeste gets a surprise semi-sequel. The developer of 2018 Celeste has just released a surprise semi-sequel. I just really cannot read in general.
It's okay, you'll get there. We're getting there.
Today is like specifically hard. To mark the game's 3rd anniversary, Celeste director Maddie Thornton posted the news to Twitter, revealing that Celeste 2, Lonnie's Trek, or Celeste Classic 2, is a sequel to the original prototype of the game built in Pico 8, which I'm going to be honest, I don't know what the fuck that means. Pico 8 is a...
There you go.
There you
There's
go.
your answer.
Don't worry about it. Pico 8 is a fantasy video game console game engine that allows for its games to be played within a browser. This means you can play Celeste 2 Classic right now. So Josh, this is one of the games that you have been playing. So tell us about Celeste Classic 2 and how you kind of like, do you think that it lives up to, like, okay, I guess my biggest question is, do you think that people will come into this seeing Celeste 2, even though there are like basically specific disclaimers that this is a prototype of the original, like a sequel to the original prototype of Celeste? Do you think people will come into this being like, I just like the first one so much more. I don't know why they would fuck this game up. Like they just,
I don't think you will, because like the change in aesthetic and the way that they used Pico 8, which was if you played through Celeste, there was a section where you are able to play a more or less console version of the Celeste game within the game, and this is the same engine, the same kind of mechanic that you have, not mechanic, excuse me, but the same like the just engine that they're using, the way it felt, kind of a thing. So in that regards, I think you can immediately tell like this isn't Celeste, because if it was, it would have been that same type of game, that same look and feel, that same, you know, like the elements to it that were different. Like this is very much, even though it's got that tagline of like Celeste 2, so different. Like instead of an actual dash, what you're using is you have your character's ability to jump from walls, but you don't have a dash. You have a little like grappling hook that will fly out, hit a wall, and pull you towards an object. And just like in Celeste, there are very small, very like kind of annoying, because it's a very get good thing where there's like these mechanics where when you hit a wall, you technically can hit a wall full of spikes, but right as you know you're getting to a certain point, you can jump up and jump over the spikes, and like you need to get good at the timing of like how fast you're going with those things. And like this is one of those things, Jacob, where just like you put it, this game is hard. It's hard. It's a tough one. It is a small slice of a game, though. It is, and they even say it later in the article. In the description, it's mentioned that this was built in just 3 days. So wow. It's literally just a small prototype. It feels very much like a game jams kind of thing of just building something in a short time period. But like it's still pretty fun. It took me 30 minutes to complete. But a lot of it
takes somebody good at games 30 minutes to complete. Okay, so Jacob, just to let you know, I'm going to decipher that for you. This is hour-long
3 hours.
Hold that thought.
Yeah.
I've seen speed runs of 4 minutes. People can fly through this game. But as a person who was just trying to figure it out, as a person who was like, and there's strawberries in it. I got 10 out of the 15 strawberries. And so there's like, there was one at the end that I was like, I could do this if I kept trying, but I was like, fuck, I don't want to dedicate my life to this. This is too much. And it's like, after playing it, you have to constantly go back and forth between the grappling hook and jumping, and my hands hurt so much from pressing back and forth, because there's like these platforms that you have to like grab onto, and then you like immediately stop grabbing onto and jump, and then turn around and then grab onto that one and then go to this one, and you're like back and forth. And so like some of those sections were just like really annoying when you don't know what you're doing, and you're like, okay, how do I get there, kind of a thing. But it's a challenging but fun experience. I would recommend it for people who, you know, got through the later portions of Celeste and want a very challenging game. But like, if you're not into a hard experience, you might get stuck like real quick. It doesn't hold your hand in a lot of it.
Pico 8 games like super interest me. At one point, Danielle Riendo, who was at Waypoint at the time, like was doing these streams in the morning where like she was just like making her own Pico 8 games, and it just seemed like such a cool like tool to learn game development. Yeah.
It's definitely an interesting experience. Like I'd recommend trying it, but like, yeah, like this game does not like it very much is just a prototype, just like kind of like threw it together thing, because there is no hand holding. If you don't watch like a video or something of like some of the mechanics in it, like nothing teaches you. You just have to figure out how to get past that screen and like learn whatever mechanic it's trying to teach you.
I did want to ask, this being a, like, basically a pseudo-sequel to what would be, like, the prototype of Celeste, does this have any sort of, like, the big thing with Celeste, I think a lot of people thought, was the narrative being entwined?
Don't consider that. There's no narrative here. It's literally just gameplay. Yeah. There's
so
no,
what
like,
they mean by that is basically it's, like, it's just gameplay. It's like Celeste 2, but if you cut out everything...
Yeah.
That isn't gameplay.
100%. It's very much just a challenging, fun experience, but like you're not going to get the same, you know, like fuzzy feelings. You're not going to get a narrative story to this. You're literally just going to get, here's the mechanics, go, have fun.
Okay. Do you know if you play as Madeline?
No,
like, I guess that's even the closest I could get.
You play as, I think the character's name is Lonnie, because it's Celeste 2 Lonnie's Trek. And so you're playing as this other character. I don't know who Lonnie is in like the story for any of it. Like, I don't know if maybe I missed something along the way, but like it's just a random other character as far as I know.
Okay, awesome. I mean, this looks really cool. The reason I want to talk about this most is, do you Really, it was the like managing people's expectations, I guess, for the most part, like coming into this, being ready to like, because I imagine there are so many people that are going to see Celeste 2 and come into it thinking that it's going to be this groundbreaking success, this like amazing experience that they had in 2018. They're like, exactly what I need in COVID times. I need Celeste. And then they play it and they're just like, this game's just fucking hard. Like, where's the shit I loved? Does I do have to ask, does it have any sort of like, one of the things that Celeste is really touted for is its accessibility features? Does it have any of that?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
So basically just bare bones, like everything's hard, you're gonna hate yourself. Like that's what this game is?
A little bit, yeah.
It's like a Flash game, essentially, right?
Yes, yeah. It like that's the thing. Like I get, you know, like calming people's expectations or presenting it in a certain way, but like this is a free web-based game. Like there's nothing to it. Like you can download it or you could not. Or well, actually, you don't even download it. You could load the webpage.
Yeah,
or not.
100%. So yeah, I think it's really cool. I saw that it's on itch.io. Do you know if it's like possible for you to give any amount for it? Is it like the kind of like pay what you want thing, or is it only in a browser?
Let me see. I'll quickly try to download it. Nope, it just downloads right away.
Oh, that's cool. I think it's awesome that they just like kind of give it away. It's in a sense kind of just like more Celeste levels for the most part. Like how they did the updates like later on. Obviously, it's a little bit different because you said the gameplay is much different.
Yeah, in a way. But yeah, it feels very much just like a kind of, you know, just nod to the fans of like, thanks for, you know, making the game successful. Here's a couple of, you know, like little fun experiences that we put together as a team.
Yeah. I mean, it seems really, really cool. I can't even beat normal Celeste, so, you know, not...
Same.
Normal Celeste gets real hard at the end there.
But the game looks really cool. I'm very glad that they're putting this out. I wonder if this means that they'll be working on a possible sequel to Celeste, because I don't believe the team has actually come out and said anything about what they're working on. So I think that would be kind of interesting if this is like, they're basically like, this is the prototype to Celeste 2, and then they actually build off of it. This kind of just drums up support. I think it'll be really
if
cool.
they do, man, like I loved this game. I thought it was fun, but like it is a thumb crusher. It is so fucking painful. The 30 minutes that I played, like it really hurt because you're constantly just going like this, just over and over again, like
sounds fun. Sounds like something that I would, you know, die to not play.
Yeah,
So our next news story is over on GameSpot. This one is written by Eddie McCourt. Okay, here's the thing, Jacob. Do you know how to say this name? Eddie McCourt.
No, I don't. So I'm not even gonna try. Great article, Eddie. Tencent buying more studios.
I fucking love it. It's just like the two different ideas when coming to names. It's just like, I don't know how to say it, so I'm not going to try. And me just being like, let's see if I can fuck this up. So, like I said, over on GameSpot, this is Tencent buys a stake in another game developer and its Life is Strange dev Dontnod. Tencent, the Chinese internet giant that owns the developer of League of Legends, Warframe, Path of Exile, and Don't Starve. Well, they own a majority of a lot of these companies. They don't just straight out own them, but I get the point. Has announced yet another investment in a game studio. Life is Strange Studio Dontnod, which is based in France, announced that Tencent has invested 30 million euros into the studio. Thank you, Jacob. Into the studio to claim a minority stake in the company. As part of the deal, Tencent gets the option to ask for a seat on Dontnod's board of directors. Dontnod said that it is using the money to pay for expansions of the studio's efforts to develop and self-publish games across PC, console, and mobile, which I think is actually really cool because, like, as far as I know, every one of their games has actually been published by somebody else, whether that is, like, Microsoft with Tell Me Why or, what is it, Square published Life is Strange. So I think that's really cool, especially when you consider, like, the fact that it was so difficult for them to get Life is Strange made the way they wanted to, because everyone wanted them to change either Max or Chloe. They did not want two women. They wanted one of them to be a man, and they were like, no. And then they eventually found Square Enix that allowed them to do so. So I think that's really awesome. But how do you feel about this, Jacob? How do you feel about Tencent continuing to gobble up stuff? I mean, this is a little bit better than the Cly Entertainment story, because they only own a minority stake. Yeah, guaranteeing only like a seat on the board of directors, which is obviously still a big deal. But with Cly, they bought like a majority stake in the company. So do you think, do you think we will ever see criticism of Xi Jinping in a Dontnod game? Do you think we'll ever see the visage of Winnie the Pooh?
Man, Tencent made, it's later in the story, but they made 31 investments in gaming studios in 2020 alone. And most of those are in China, but there are some, like they invested in Platinum, they invested in like Liu, who owns Splash Damage and Digital Extremes. They put money into Clay, like you said. They put money into a few other studios. They just have been making tons of acquisitions over the past few years, and you can just go through and name some of the biggest games and some of the biggest developers out there, and they either own a piece or they own like the full company. Riot Games, they own the full company. They own 40% of Epic. They own Paradox. They own 5% of Ubisoft. They own a piece of Bluehole, who made PUBG. They own most of Supercell. Like, I could go on and on and on. I just like the Trump administration made a call, and I hate to even bring this up because that man, I never want to say his name again, but they made a call to ban Tencent, and just the way they did it had no bite. But like, sometimes I wonder, like, why hasn't anyone asked any questions about the amount of investments that Tencent has made in the space? Like, no one. From an antitrust
perspective. Because we're more worried
perspective.
about TikTok, bro. Come on. Bro.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
They're stealing our data.
I don't know. They own a lot of the games business, and I don't think people ever talk about it except when they buy another North American studio. And I legitimately think we should have a conversation about it. Antitrust, what is that?
It's a big deal. I titled the last week's episode, like, let's bring out our tinfoil hats, because I know people are going to come out of the gate, like, talking about how they're collecting our data and all sorts of stuff. And I feel like that's actually, like, I'm not saying that it's not a possibility, but it is a little weird that they're investing in a game studio that has almost exclusively made games that are based on our choices as humans. And it's a little spooky, I'm going to be honest, with the exception of Vampire, I believe, but that was actually, I think it was just published by Dontnod, so it's a little bit different. But, like, it's so weird. I feel so bad because last week I was all about, like, Cly, like, as long as they continued to have their own autonomy, hopefully it was going to be something similar to Microsoft's acquisition of, like, In Exile and stuff over, like fucking Riot, and just being like, don't you fucking talk about Hong Kong. But yeah, when it came to a studio that I actually give a shit about, I was just like, no.
I think it's pretty telling that, like, the India is banning, like, certain Chinese apps and games. I think that's pretty telling. But I just want people to have more conversations about the amount of acquisitions they've made, because they probably own holdings, if we're going to be real, of like 60 to 80 different companies in the games business, most of them being in China, but still like some significant investments in global games companies, and just nobody talks about it. Like, I want to talk about it on every podcast I come on, because why aren't we talking about it? It's wild how they have come in. They own 40% of Epic. And nobody talks about it. I'm off my soapbox.
You're good. No, I feel like a lot of it comes down to however much people in the games industry may try to portray that they understand financial matters, we actually don't. Like, if the whole thing that came, I'm not saying that you don't, but a lot of us do. The majority, I would say, probably do. Where, like, the biggest thing that came out of this whole GameStop, like, stock thing is the amount of fucking articles of people just trying to explain what the fuck happened. And it's like, gamers and like people who play video games, and most of the people in the industry do not have any idea about financial matters. Like a lot of us, like you were talking about getting on a soapbox. I feel like that only exists, like people thinking about getting on a soapbox, because most of us just don't understand it. If we did understand it, we would be annoyed too. But yeah, 100%. The only reason I don't talk about it is because I don't know what the fuck any of this means.
Yeah, and like I would have the same conversation about like social media companies in the United States, how they have like a monopoly on your data. And that's not like a strictly Tencent thing. That is like, I want to have that conversation about Facebook. I want to have that conversation about Twitter. I want to have that conversation about ByteJacker, I think is the parent company of TikTok. I want to talk about them too. Like it's not an exclusively Tencent thing. It is an antitrust in the United States thing.
Yeah, I think it comes down to a bigger point of kind of what Vaughn mentioned, which is like a lot of people just don't know, right? And not that they don't know, but they also don't care in a lot of regards.
We kind of have like our heads buried in the sand.
Because ignorance is bliss in some regards, right? Is like we don't really think about it. Like it's the fact that like this phone, like I have so much data from myself on this, and I'm like, Google knows me, whatever, and I just kind of take it for granted because there's like general perks that I get from doing that. But like, is that okay? Realistically, probably not. Down the road there's going to be something that really bad happens, and like I kind of am just along for the ride because I'm like, well, you know, I like that it knows where I live so that it could just take me home whenever I drive somewhere and I need to go, like, you know, things like that. Like, and I'm just like, well, that's just how it is, you know, like but it's like, should it be? No, I don't know.
Imagine if you were like buying a car, right? And you had the choice between 10 different cars, and 8 of those cars were like made by different companies, but they were owned by the same holdings company, right? Mm-hmm. Could that company like put pricing pressure on the industry? Absolutely. I just like want to have more conversations about antitrust, and that's, again, I'm just gonna be calm. Get off my soapbox and stop talking about Tencent.
I mean, I think it's a good point though, and like it's kind of hard. Like when it is very weird because when Tencent does this and they gobble up a studio, people are like, oh, this is it, I'm never trusting them again, blah blah. But like when Xbox does this, everyone's like, oh cool, they're doing what they need to do. That's the right move. And you're like, Tencent's over here doing the same thing and we're not fucking mad at them. Like, what's going on here? You know, like,
or when Disney does it, we don't say anything when they buy Marvel and buy LucasArts and buy blah blah blah. They own entertainment and we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
If anything, we're excited about it. We're just like, sweet, dude, the X-Men can finally be in the MCU. You're like, but wait, though, what do you mean? Like, you don't understand how this is fucked up? Honestly, I feel like it's I feel like it really comes down to ignorance is bliss. Like, there's so many things that we have basically as humans evolved to be so terrified of. It's kind of like when you think of I saw somebody point this out and I thought it was the creepiest thing, is that when you think of the uncanny valley, the feeling that looking at something and it looks almost human but not human, and that makes you feel uncomfortable.
Right.
There is an evolutionary reason for that. And nobody exactly knows why, and it's actually kind of creepy. I feel like we as humans are scared of so many things, especially me. Like, this is coming from me, the most phobic person on earth. I almost don't want to be scared of anything else. So I'll be like, you know what? Yes, they're stealing my data, but at this point, I'm going to normalize it because I don't want to know how terrifying that is. Yeah. I don't want to know at this point. Like, it's so much, but that's why I appreciate so much about people who do get on a soapbox, even though like people are often kind of like ostracized because of it. They're just like, oh, all he talks about is this. And you're just like, yeah, because like nobody fucking else will. Like, it kind of checks out. But
the
it's
government's
just
coming to get me, man. They're coming to get me.
Yeah, dude. It just makes everyone else so much. It just makes them so uncomfortable, especially right now, because it's like you don't have enough to deal with like COVID and worrying about paying your bills and everything. And then somebody's like, this Chinese company is buying everything. And they're like, fuck it, dude. Chinese goods are sweet. Like, let's get cheap toys. Like, I don't give a fuck.
Video games.
Like, no. So, I will allow you to get off your soapbox with our last news story. This one is over on Nintendo Life. It is written by Henry Stockdale, and it is Cyber Shadow only uses a quarter of its written story and lore. We were rather taken by Cyber Shadow when it launched earlier this week, bringing us an 8-bit ninja action platformer. The story focused on Shadow, lost survivor of an ancient order of ninjas, having awoken to a bizarre technological world. Shadow seeks to take down the threat which destroyed both his clan and the world. Bringing a rather standard premise, we thought the story held more depth than expected, but as it turns out, the finished game's content barely scratches the surface. Speaking to Goomba Stomp in a recent podcast, Yacht Club Games marketing manager Celia Schilling revealed only 25% of the lore was actually used, confirming what you guys, and this is a quote, obviously, what you guys get in Cyber Shadow currently is only 25% of the story that Arne Hunziker, I don't really know how to say any of that, had written for it. Arne has so much backstory for Cyber Shadow. I remember we're working on a character profile for it, and I was like, okay, Arne, tell me more about player character Shadow. Like, what does he like to do for fun? And he's like, Shadow, obviously, he has a sensitivity to essence. Like, okay, I don't need to read like all of this to make the point, but I feel like it's kind of crazy to think that this only scratches 25%. So the thing I really want to ask, and I mean, I doubt Jacob and I will ever finish this game, but do you think this means like this is basically a subtle nod, or in essence a confirmation of we are going to get more content from Cyber Shadow? Because imagine developing 25% or developing 100% of a world and only using 25% of it. What are you going to do with the rest? Like those 3/4 extra, what the fuck are you going to do with that? So Josh, do you think that this is going to like end up us seeing like DLC content similar to like a Shovel Knight, where we're going to see fucking Mechanical Head Studios like release fucking updates for this for the next 25 years?
The treasure trove of Cyber Shadow. Yeah, I don't think it necessarily says an immediate yes. I think what it does say is at the end of this, perhaps different forms of physical or digital goodies come out that are like the story behind Cyber Shadow, like a book, a comic series, some kind of like just other visual representation. I think that obviously there is story here to be told that is not being from what the game has to offer. Does that necessarily equate to mean it'll be a game? I don't think so, because there was probably a reason they only used 25%. I feel like that's a pretty small slice to just take. If like that seems more like, you know, because in this question, like he even goes into like, oh, what does he like to do for fun? And you're like, do we really need that much detail in the game? Like, do we need a cutscene where he's like killing these bad guys and then he's like, I remember when I went and got ice cream with my grandfather? Like, no, we don't need that part of the story. But like, does it come into maybe some kind of like art book that, you know, doles out some of those small pieces? Like, maybe. So I say it could happen, but like I don't think this equates to it being like, yeah, for sure there's DLC or for sure there's Cyber Shadow 2, right?
Okay, Jacob, what do you think?
Yeah, sometimes, you know, authors write like treatments for their characters and their worlds that help build the thing that they build. So given Yacht Club's pedigree of like releasing multiple games within the same universe, I mean they're just publishing this one, but I could see a world where there's more content. But you know, he could have just built a world to strengthen the character that's in the game. I don't necessarily think it means anything. I just love that he thought about the things of like, what does this character Shadow like to eat? Does he like jelly-filled donuts, or does he appreciate a good cruller?
It's a tough question.
Yeah, it is a tough question, but I don't necessarily think that means like we're getting a sequel.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good point, because like writing scripts for things or writing lore, I imagine so much gets left on the page. Like if you look at scripts, there's so much that physical length, like basically physical language in movies and video games that you may never have noticed, but if you were to read the script, you'd be like, this says so much more about the character, but it's obviously left out because there is a gameplay component to that. So I totally understand that. I personally think we're going to see some more Cyber Shadow, especially because it's been popping the past little while. I think we see at least 1, maybe 2 DLCs very similar to The Messenger. Not necessarily like DLCs, but probably like updates, possibly like small
and like I
paid
think
for updates.
I think it's hard to answer this question because none of us, like I'm about halfway, maybe a little bit more. You two have only played the first couple hours or so. Like we don't
have
know.
only played 25%.
Like I mean, I'm not saying that as
not even, dude.
Yeah, I'm not saying that in a negative context. I'm saying like we don't know the full story of like what happens. Like, does this game end and it's like, everybody wins, happy ending, the story is over? Like, then probably not, right? Like this I feel like we don't have enough information to say one way or the other because of that.
I could honestly, like, a way of the way a lot of games are doing things right now, I could 100% see a comic come out and it be like an extension from this. I personally think like Cram would be 100% like fantastic artist to bring on for a comic of Cyber Shadow because their art style is just so cool. I really, really loved Raiders, but that's kind of something that's happened so much in video games right now is that comics like come in tandem with games. Like God of War has comics, The Division has comics, Last of Us has comics, Mega Man has comics. Like what was it? I'm trying to think. Panzer Paladin has comics.
Right.
Like even indie games are starting to move into this. I mean, technically Hollow Knight had the Quarrel comic, but that was specific to those who like 1 purchased the collector's edition and 2 were like Kickstarter backers. But I feel like they're starting to toe the line of like, yes, there may not be enough substance there to make a whole new world, a whole new story about this, but I could definitely see some comics coming out. 100%. Yep. I think I very much believe there will be more content for the game because that's just how video games work nowadays, but I think comics are not far behind. But we have covered these news stories, so it's time for us to hop into News Cram. Does anybody need to go to the bathroom? We could just anybody can go now.
Is that you saying you have to go?
No, I don't. I just felt bad when we got to the end of our like 2-hour podcast with Caitlin. You both are like, I'm about to blow.
Yeah, that's true.
I was like, oh shit, I'm so sorry.
Let's rock and roll.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
I'm ready to go.
All right. News Cram is our weekly wrap-up segment where we, the hosts of Indie Pod and Indie Games Podcast, and guest, cram you full of all sorts of indie game news. This week in News Cram, we do have a few quick news stories before we hop in to our new stuff. Our first news story for today comes by way of Twinfinite, where it's reported that co-op FPS Deep Rock Galactic by Ghost Ship Games has officially sold over 2 million copies across all platforms since its launch in early access in 2018. I'll be honest, I feel like this news story was written in kind of a weird way, whereas like since launch, and you're like thinking that's from its 1.0 launch, and it's like, no, it was like 2 years ago. Like it's definitely, there's a little bit more to that, but I do think that's a big deal. The game is a lot of fun. That a Reddit user, this one fucking pisses me off. A Reddit user who goes by the name Nico Bellic managed to speedrun Cyber Shadow in 1 hour and 19 minutes. But the most impressive feat is that this was less than 12 hours after the game had released. This person not only beat it once, but beat it enough times to where they could speedrun it in 1 hour and 19 minutes.
Dang.
And have no deaths.
Jesus. It's fucking dumb. The people are too talented sometimes. Like, just give it away, Just let some other people, have the spotlight every now and then. Jesus. Now, over to Nintendo Life, where it's reported that Hades, If Found, and I Can Fell were all nominated for the Outstanding Video Game Award at the 32nd GLAAD Awards, which I think is really awesome. All 3 of those games, really great. I'm going to be honest. It's obviously like this should be obvious, but the GLAAD Awards are all about diversity in games, and I hadn't noticed that when I grabbed this article. And I think it's great that we have like an entire reward show dedicated to diversity in games and really like kind of rewarding developers for doing so. And it also should be said that 3 out of like I believe there were 4, possibly more, that were nominated for this award, but the majority of them are actually indie games. Like, I think that's really awesome. And I think in the news article it said that it was Hades, If Found, Ikenfell, and Immortals Phoenix Rising were the ones that were nominated. So,
and I think there's also Last of Us 2, Valhalla, and Tell Me Why got nominations. And I don't know if there were categories or whatever, but like I really appreciate that there are stories about like LGBTQ plus relationships, characters, etc. I really need to play If Found because a colleague of mine wrote a story about the impact that If Found had on them, and I really want to play it.
Yeah, if you're a fan of visual novels, it's pretty interesting. I have yet to finish it, but I think the gameplay mechanic of like erasing things, like basically erasing your past to embrace the future, is really, really cool when you kind of like bring that into the narrative of learning who you are and understanding your gender identity and your like sexual preferences and everything. I think it's really, really cool, so I would definitely recommend it. And lastly, that Hades just cleaned up at the New York Game Awards, nabbing Game of the Year, Best Writing, Best Music, and Best Indie Game, as well as Logan Cunningham, who voiced several characters in the game, receiving Best Acting in a Game. I did not know that Logan Cunningham voiced I think he voiced 6 fucking characters in this game. Like, it's absurd. There's so many. It's awesome. Dude's got some range. Now on to some new stuff. Our first 6 items in new stuff come by way of Nintendo Life, where it's reported that action-adventure roguelike game Undermine by Thorium is headed to the Nintendo Switch on February 11th. That dungeon-crawling rhythm game, Cadence of Hyrule by Brace Yourself Games, just received a new update that includes a new page of save slots. Okay, can you explain this to me, Josh, because you played it? Is there not a lot of save slots in the game?
I'm pretty sure there was only 3.
Okay, so this brings a whole new page. So I guess that is a pretty substantial increase. I think that's awesome. A randomized option for the game's soundtrack, a myriad of bug fixes, and much more. That action RPG Haven by the Game Bakers is headed to the Nintendo Switch on February 4th. That arcade shoot 'em up Project Starship X by Panda Indie Studio is now available on the Nintendo Switch. That point-and-click adventure game, this is the funniest name, and I don't know if they did it on purpose. Willie Morgan and the Course of Bone Town by Imaginary Lab is headed to the Nintendo Switch sometime in Q1 2021. And lastly, that adventure game After Party by Night School Studio is officially getting a physical release through Limited Run Games. If you'd like to snag one, these big boys will set you back $34.99, and pre-orders are already live, so you just head over to Limited Run. You can pick it up. Did you play After Party, Jacob? I saw when I was talking about it, you were shaking your head.
I was shaking my head because I still haven't played it. I just played Oxenfree maybe 18 months ago, and I
listened to your episode.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. We want to play After Party. It's voiced by Janina Gavinkar, and there are a couple other cool voices in there, and I just really want to play it because I love what Night School does. So maybe I'll snag one of these big boys. Who knows?
Awesome. I just gotta spread that around even more. No, I have played a little bit of After Party. I thought it was a lot of fun in the character dynamic between, I believe, one of the characters is Milo. I forget the other one's name. I believe Janina Ivankar actually voices Milo. I'm not 100% certain. But it's really, really cool, and the entire idea of these two people going to hell and not understanding why they went to hell, and the only way out is to challenge Satan to a drinking contest, is such an interesting narrative decision that I actually really want to see through. So I'll have to end up finishing that as well.
Yeah, it just left Game Pass a few months ago, but maybe you can grab it on Switch.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I never touched my Switch, but maybe.
This could be the moment.
Now over on Twinfinite, where it's reported that Fall Guys just received a new update that includes new levels, new and returning costumes. Specifically, I believe the Untitled Goose Game, Godzilla, and another one are all coming back, and much more. And now, to round out the group, over on IGN, it is reported that developer Blink Click Games has just announced a new 2.5D puzzle platformer titled My Father, My Son, yet no release date was given. That PlayStation 5 exclusive third-person roguelike shooter, or roguelite shooter, I don't know, Josh would have to tell me, Returnal by Housemarque has just been delayed to April 30th, 2021. And lastly, that developer Storming Games has just announced a new action RPG titled Batora Lost Haven, yet no release date was given. My Father, My Son looks really, really interesting. It kind of like makes me think of Brothers, and I think that's really cool. So I guess we'll just have to end up seeing. To quote Josh, show me the game.
That's right.
Kind of a deal. So there you go. But we have been blessed with so many amazing indie game news stories that it's time for us to give back to the creators in our next segment, God Bless the Crowd. This is where the biggest of average Josh boys hops into all sorts of crowdfunding sites, finds something awesome for us to talk about, and we do just so. This week, we're heading over to Kickstarter to talk about a game called Humans Took My Neighbors. Well, actually, sorry, I said that wrong. That's not actually what it is.
Exclamation point. Punctuation is important.
100%. That's why I got to do this. I am legally obligated to say, humans took my neighbors. This time, monsters save the day. Inspired by the humor and style of Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Oh, fuck, I'm not going to do that one. That's a little bit too much. With ARPG touches to gameplay and design, the developers are looking for $13,549. They currently have 70 backers with 25 days left to go and $2,043. This is developed by Heron Games. So I'm going to let Big Josh Boy goes first because he carries this segment, dude.
Do I?
He finds the games and he talks about it. So Big Josh Boys. Oh,
multiple. There's so many of me.
Yeah, you're so good. There's multiple of you now.
Big Josh Boys.
100%. Dude, he's so well endowed that he's got to count as multiple people. So tell me about Humans Took My Neighbors. What do you think? Are you excited for this? Because you actually are a fan of Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
Yeah,
and are you kind of afraid of like multiple games coming out in this genre, because this is like the third we've seen.
This is definitely a trend that's interesting, because when you love something so much, as far as like a nostalgia trip where you're like, Zombies Ate My Neighbors, what an amazing game that was. I have such fond memories of it. And then you see so many people creating something, you're like, how are they going to screw it up? I think this is an interesting twist, though. So the other one that we talked about before was more or less like leaning into the Zombies Ate My Neighbor piece, where they were just like, it's kind of like a remake version. Like it's just the same concept of like these monsters and trying to defeat them. This one is totally different, which I like, because it spins it has that twist, very much like what I was talking about with Skul. How in Skul, the humans are the bad people, and you're this skeleton who's like trying to get rid of all these evil humans. This is the same concept. This is like you're in this village of just a ton of monsters. This is where you live. This is how life is. And these humans just come in and start wrecking it because they're like, I got to defeat the evil monster. And they're like, the fuck, bro, we live here. So I think it's a really interesting take on that. And I think it's playing into a little bit of like the way the game was, but with its own twist of like the mechanics that are in there, because you could see that like the way you're attacking the actual form of having health bars is very different than what Zombies Ate My Neighbors was, but it has the same kind of layout, the same very similar worlds that you got in those games. So it's trying to basically put its own twist on it, and I don't know that it's hitting the mark that I personally want. I think some people will see this and they'll be excited because it's a cool little twist. It's a nice play on, that nostalgia of the game. But I just don't know how fun the actual mechanics would be for me right now. And this is again, with Kickstarters, you have to be very, very much in the mindset that these games are more or less you being like, oh, it's a prototype, or oh, it's still in works, like things are going to get better because I'm putting money into it. So like I can't judge it just for what it looks like right now. But just looking at it, if this was what came out, I don't know that this would be for me personally. But I do think it's a quirky little game. I like that you have these different monster characters. I don't remember seeing if it was online co-op, which I hope, because that was one of the big things of Zombies Ate My Neighbors. And you do see that you can have two people at the same time. I just don't know if there's online, and that might be one of those things where, based on the actual funding they get, they then go through that. Because online stuff is hard and it takes a lot of money to actually create. But I think it's a clever idea, and I definitely want to see where this goes. I just don't think this is an initial backing from my side, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Jacob, were you a fan of Zombies Ate My Neighbors? And are you just chomping at the bit for some Humans Took My Neighbors?
No, I know of the game, but truly it's like a real blind spot for me. This game, like you said, Josh, it looks cool. It looks early.
Yes.
That's why, and I don't know if this is the right perspective to have, but usually I will support the game as soon as it comes out. I will buy that indie game day one. But I've been burned a couple times with Kickstarter projects,
yeah,
and so unless I know the team, I backed what was the Mega Man Creators game that was not good?
Mighty Number 9.
Yes.
Mighty Number 9 was the last straw for me. I backed Mighty Number 9, and then that was it, never again. So this looks cool. I have nothing but high hopes for Heron Games, but I'm gonna have to wait till it comes out. It looks cool. If you're a fan of those original games, maybe. But for me, no.
Yeah.
I personally, the thing I find most alluring about it is that twist, similar to Skul, is that you are just these fucking mythical creatures, basically vampires and werewolves, just minding your own business, and humans come like the fucking Kool-Aid Man, tear through your dimension and start fucking shit up. I appreciate that. I think it's really cool, and it brings a lot of different storytelling angles that you can explore. Mm-hmm. And it actually kind of reminds me of the idea behind one of our first developer interviews, which was Heroes Ravage, which was basically being the villagers who try to keep the different adventurers from fucking up their shit, how they constantly in Legend of Zelda, you run up and you crack all the pots and pans and whatever, the terracotta, the clay pots, because you want some rupees, but you never think about that being an NPC's home that you're just fucking destroying.
Yeah.
And I think this is very similar, where it's you never necessarily thought about in video games the worlds that you for the most part invaded, unless that was part of the narrative. In Greedfall, that is a part of that narrative, where it's there's undiscovered territory, and it's very reminiscent of basically Europeans coming to America and being you know what, this land, God made this land for us, but the trials and tribulations is just about wiping the indigenous population out. You're just there's obviously a flaw in logic there, but okay, you could just whatever. But I think that's the coolest part about this game. I was not a fan of Zombies Ate My Neighbors. I've never played it, but having looked at it, actually that's not true. I have played it very, very little in the past, but it just was not. I wasn't a big fan of it, so maybe I'll hop into something like this because it does have that little bit of a different gameplay style, and I really like the animation, specifically of your character walking. I think that their hair moving up and down is super cute, and I like that a lot. But it's also, it's not going to be something that I personally back, even though currently the early bird, there are... It says 30 hours to go, so I'm assuming it's also limited based on time, so I'm not going to talk about that one. But to get in on the ground floor to actually just get a copy of the game is $15. So this is a relatively low barrier to entry for a Kickstarter.
Right.
But once again, I totally every time we point this out in God Bless the Crowd, we understand mindsets like Jacob's, where it's you've been burned by so many things that it's hard to invest in another.
Yeah.
So I 100% understand it. I hope that fans of this genre kind of want to check this out, and I especially think it brings kind of a different tinge to it, where we've talked about, like Josh pointed out in the past, where there was I believe it was demons ate my neighbors, and it was basically squirting them with holy water, and that was, for the most part, it was really stylized and cool, but it was kind of a copy and paste like homage to that game versus this is like an entirely different take on the story of that game and also the combat. So I think that's very cool.
If classic SNES Mega Drive top-down... I'm reading the Kickstarter. If classic NES Mega Drive top-down games, and especially some of my favorites, Zombies Ate My Neighbors and 2D Zelda excites you, I would implore you to check this Kickstarter out.
100%.
It looks very cool.
Yeah. And the combat style, like bringing up the 2D Zelda, the combat style is very, very reminiscent of what I would say is like a 2D Zelda.
Right.
style.
So that's kind of what I was getting on about the change in bringing a different twist to the Zombies Ate My Neighbor style, because like the combat in this is very much different because it plays into more of that Zelda style than it does original Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
Yeah. It's not. Like, Zombies Ate My Neighbors had such a weird gameplay style where it technically was, like, for the most part, like, a third-person shooter, depending on how you talk about it, but it also was, like, a weird mix of bullet hell where you were just, like, squirting people with weird shit. Oh, no.
It was water guns.
Like you had a gun, right? It was like
water
a laser
guns.
gun or something?
No, it was water guns.
Oh,
it was
like, okay.
Yeah, it was water guns, and then you found, like... They had such weird stuffs. They had tomatoes, you had corn dogs, you had forks and spoons and plates that you would throw. They had weird mystery potions that would sometimes hurt you, sometimes freeze you, sometimes turn you into a giant Hulk-like monster so that you could defeat people. I think this one is super cool because it seems to be playing into, at least it looked like in one of the videos, that those items are more the things that are attacking you, which plays more into like you're on the other side of this, and that's why combat is different, is because those enemies are using those different things against you. So I think that is really cool. I think it's really cool in theory. I think this is one of those ones where I'm going to watch this and take a step back and wait until it comes out. But I definitely think that this is a game for a good, large audience of people who might not know about it. So, like, if any of this sounds interesting, definitely check it out.
100%. So I feel like we pretty much covered Humans Took My Neighbors over on Kickstarter. Please check it out if you are a fan of like 2D Zelda, Zombie Ate My Neighbors, or just old school NES style games. Please check it out. Like I said, they are... I believe they're in the early stages of not only development, but also their Kickstarters, so please go over and check it out. And it is time for us to get into our last segment of the podcast. These are our listener questions. Chase writes in and says, I really have to point out how many times he wrote this in to make sure that we talk about it. I very much appreciate it. He writes in and says, you only get 5 drinks for the rest of your life. What are they? Remember, as a human, you need water to live. Mine would be water, Pamplemousse LaCroix, Tito's vodka. He's like obsessed with it. I'm literally not even joking. Like, you know when you can buy vodka at Costco and it's basically like an oil drum? That's what he purchases. Like, it's not even a joke. Powerade Zero Grape and the Blue Bang. So, Jacob, what would be your 5 things that you have to drink for the rest of your life?
Easy.
And I love going you first.
Easy.
Really?
Water, coffee,
Yep.
Yes.
2% milk, probably a gin.
Wait, hold up.
Yeah.
Because, like, are we considering, like, with coffee, I put a splash of milk. Do I have to pick both milk and coffee?
Oh, dude,
Yeah.
you're fucked.
Dude, I'm
yeah,
fucked.
even
You're
if you just
toast.
like that.
I'm a huge tea fan, and I'm just leaving tea in that. Well, actually, tea is a solid, right? Because I can get tea bags and put that in my water, and therefore I don't break the rule.
Yeah, okay, that's a good point, too.
Ooh, coffee,
Because
does that work too?
You could purchase it, but you can't drink it. That's the thing. It's only 5 drinks for the rest of your life. So if you have
just
to
get to
consume
sit
it as a
and
drink,
look at it.
Dude, are we also counting broth as a drink? Like, how fucked up is that? You can never have broth again.
Broth is an ingredient for food.
Dude, seriously, Chase is the one person you don't want to fuck with when it comes
With
to
semantics?
semantic discussions about
No
drinks.
semantics.
Like,
Here they are. Water, coffee, milk, strawberry bubbly, and some form of gin. Probably, I'm a big fan of Ungava gin. It is from Quebec. It is great. 5. Done.
Fucking strawberry bubbly's so good, dude.
So good.
It's so good. I love it.
Michael Bublé can talk about bubbly all the time because I love it. Bublé bubbly. Great.
Michael Bublé.
Michael Bubbly.
I also 2% milk, dude. What is
dude.
that all about?
Well, Y'all are the weird ones. Y'all put cream in your coffee, and I'm not about that.
Wait,
I mean,
what's wrong with 2% milk?
I don't. Okay, here's the thing though. Me being a chonk ass boy, I've always.
Oh, you
drank
have to
whole
drink
milk.
whole? No, that's too
Yeah,
much.
I've
No.
It's
always
too
drank
much.
whole milk.
Why?
And
No.
like, you know, the funniest thing about it was when I started living with my wife, I was like, we were going grocery shopping and I picked out, I was like, oh, okay, we need some milk, grab the red cap. Because it's literally all I've ever had in my life, with the exception of like 2% milk at school, which I thought was dog shit. So I was just like, no, because it just tasted like water with
Yeah.
milk flavoring.
You like to
So it's
chew
like,
your milk, is what
no.
you're saying.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly
Give me
what
a
I like.
big old
like,
cup of
in
yogurt.
the animal where he drinks like badger milk and he just has to cut off the top and it slowly slinks out like Jello. That's the shit I enjoy. 100%. I want
Ugh.
my cottage cheese.
Ugh. I
Josh,
say.
what would be your 5 drinks for the rest of your life?
Yo, this shit
Keeping
threw
in
me
mind
for
that
a
you do
loop.
need water to live.
Yeah. Water is an obvious one. That's my primary drink. But like I always have to have my coffee in the morning. So now I have to put milk in there. So that's water, coffee, and milk. And then I'd say tea because I love iced tea, which might piss people off because
Any
it's not real
specific
tea.
version of tea? Like you're like Earl Grey, or to be honest, that's the only tea I know.
Well, I like the Tazo green tea, which is like a mix of spearmint and a bunch of other just really tasty like the green type of teas. But I would probably not use that for my iced tea. I just do like regular like black tea for iced tea, and I just pour tea and water. But now I'm stuck on my 5th one now because I wanted to do beer, but also gin or some kind of like liquor. But now I can't, so I have to
Because
pick
you
one.
have to have milk.
Because I have to have milk. Yeah, because I drink milk more than that because I'm not gonna drink my fucking coffee without my splash of milk.
I mean,
And
the funniest thing
I
about
love
this
cereal,
is-
so like I'm not gonna drink no dry ass fucking or eat dry ass cereal.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I mean, you also have to think about this though. It's like you need water to live, but water also exists in every drink. So how fucked up would it be that like you couldn't drink one of the things you wanted because you
'Cause you
opted out
didn't
of
pick
water?
water.
So like, yeah, you're like, I would like red Powerade, and it's like, no, you don't get, like, you didn't choose
get the
water.
powder.
So instead, yeah, you get the powder and you just have to shove it in your mouth.
Like those people who have pre-workout and just like have a dry scoop, and I'm like, you're a crazy person. Please stop.
Exactly. It's like the cinnamon challenge where you like tried to swallow a cup of cinnamon and everyone is just like, yeah, exactly. So
I guess I'll go with beer. But like that's the thing is because like this is a weird one. Like, do I just get beer? Can I pick beer and then drink all of the different types of beers? Because like that's a pretty big variety if you're
That's
a beer
not one
drinker.
drink.
Like yeah, like a one drink. Like am I saying like you can only have this one specific craft beer you ever drink? And it's like
I think so. I mean, Jacob chose 2% milk, and
Yeah,
Chase
'cause
specifically
Jacob-
chose Pamplemousse LaCroix.
yeah, Jacob fucked me over because he said the strawberry bubbly thing, and I was like, "Fuck!" He got into the specifics too because we could have just totally ignored Chase like we usually do when people
He
ask
seems
these
like a
questions.
good dude.
Yeah, he's definitely a stickler for the rules. It was actually kind of funny. At one point in time, Chase got so annoyed with us dodging his questions, like subtly dodging his questions, that he was like, Vaughn, I'm writing in a question, and if you and Josh dodge it, I will never write in a question again. And I was
All
like,
right.
okay.
Well, I'll tell you this. I won't give you one specific beer, but I'll stick to one specific
Like a type? Like an IPA?
the way they blend it. No, I'll even go deeper into the dive. There's a specific brewery, I can't remember. I think it's Drecker Brewing Company, who make this one beer called Chonk. And there's different variations of it. Yeah, it's called Chonk. It's
I like the Chonk. Okay.
fucking good. A lot of people will probably disagree because the people who are like there's like a type of beer drinker that's like the schnobby like well I guess I could say I'm the schnobby one, but like the craft beer drinkers who are like, oh, I like these weird ones that are like either sour or fruity or have like lactose in them, which is a good thing I picked milk then, huh? But like Chonk is this fucking delicious beer. I have that. I think I've told you one time on the podcast. I have that app called Tavor, which is to get these random beers like throughout the world, and like you basically they have like a random selection every day or so, and you pick some, and it's kind of like a catalog, and then they ship it to you. only fucking reason I'm using it is because like I waited until that chunk comes up, and then I'm like, all right, now I'll look into the app. Like otherwise I don't do anything because I'm just waiting for that one specific beer. So I will say I will stick with chonk and their variations, but like I'm not just gonna pick one. Sorry, Chase.
Okay. All right. I feel like that's fair enough because you didn't dodge the question. You put a little bit more thought into it than you normally would, or than I normally would. So I appreciate that. I like how Jacob's just a good boy. He's like, you know what? My name, it's a holy name, and I bring that into my body. It's a temple. I gotta be real. I can't lie. I can't fuck
It's
a question.
the Canadian in me always has to be truthful and say sorry. So sorry, I followed your rules.
You should be
You're
sorry.
welcome.
Usually, yeah. So for me, obviously, has to be water because I feel like that's just the default. Plus, I actually drink a large amount of water. So then I would probably number 2. I gotta be that guy who says Mountain Dew. I drink so much Mountain Dew, it's fucking annoying. And I will choose
Like
since we're
regular
going,
or
like,
Baja Blast?
See,
Or,
okay,
like,
here's the
diet.
thing.
I
Did you
can't.
just say fucking Diet Mountain Dew, Jacob?
I drink
Diet soda, let's go.
I drink Diet Coke, but like
Oh my
I will not
God.
drink Diet Mountain Dew. That
Diet
is
soda
so
gang,
gross.
let's go.
So do you just like diet sodas in general, or are there
Yes.
specific diet sodas you like?
All the
Just
diet
in general.
sodas.
All
All
of
of them. Yeah. I will take a diet soda over a full sugar soda any day.
I will too.
I just think they
Aspartame me
taste
up.
so weird.
I will
dude.
too.
It's
It's an acquired taste because I started back when I was a big chonky boy, and I'm not anymore, and now I'm just used to it. And when people give me regular soda, I'm like, ugh, it's too much sugar. It's gross to me. You give me diet soda, I'm like, all right, this is good. I like it.
Yeah.
That
My
reminds me
girlfriend. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, my fucking wife does this thing. Like, it seems to happen whenever we go to dinner with my parents. Is that like any restaurant where you tell them what drink you want and they bring it to you? She's always like, "Can I have a Diet Coke, please?" Every time this happens, where she gets it and then she sips it, and she's like, "This tastes weird," and we just see out of the corner of my eye, like my dad just like brights up and he thinks it's the funniest thing. And he's like, "It's regular Coke." And he just thinks it's the funniest fucking thing. And then every time they point it out, and yeah, it turns out every time they just give a regular Coke. And I was like, I honestly am starting to think that no one actually carries diet sodas. They just repackage normal soda and say that it's diet. And she was just like, no. Like, I'm just like fucking mandala affecting her or whatever, just saying that it never actually existed. Shit's
Too
weird.
bad.
Jacob, what were you going to say?
It was unimportant. It was probably my girlfriend bought like full sugar soda by accident this week, and I had one, and I was just like you. I was like, "Bleh, I don't want to drink this. It's diet
too
soda
much.
gang for life.
Yeah.
I would just love it. He's like, I accidentally drank one, thought it was Diet Mountain Dew. I spit it out right in her face. Told her
Right
to
in her
get out.
face. I was like,
Yeah.
this is
Try
unacceptable.
You're like, sorry, erase that part where I said girlfriend, ex-girlfriend. That's what's happening.
One time I drank a Coke Life, which is like in between. It's got like half sugar and half stevia, and I did the same thing. I was like, "Pah! This is for peasants. Bring me the Diet Coke."
Bring me the diet.
Yeah, I just threw up in my mouth. So I got water. I've got normal Mountain Dew. I don't fuck with diet sodas. And since we're getting a little bit like granular here, I'm going to go with Mountain Dew Black Label because I very much enjoy it. I think it's awesome. Then I would say the Absolute Zero well, actually, I would say the Absolute Zero Monsters, but I literally can't find them anywhere. So what would be the point of choosing something that I cannot find? Like, if it was a guarantee that there would be an abundance of these beverages on Earth, this would be different. But I gotta choose, like, what is this? The Monster Zero Sugar, because that's the only one I can fucking find. And then the last one, I don't know. That one's a little bit harder because I just don't give a fuck. It's just like, I don't care that much about it. Like, I don't know. I'll go with Sprite, I guess.
I was gonna say go with mustard. Go with some
fucking
just
ketchup.
spite chase.
I mean, just to spite Chase, be like, diarrhea. That is the last drink that I choose. Is ass juice.
Well, somebody's got
I
to
mean,
do
because
it.
it's not like I have to choose it for the rest of my life. But if I ever show up at a restaurant or on a deserted island and the only things that exist are Pamplemousse LaCroix and ass juice, I technically have to drink ass juice. So I just fucked myself.
I like
Sorry.
the stark difference between if I'm ever at a restaurant, or an abandoned aisle. You're like, what the fuck? Like, what is the in between of that?
Oh my god, I go to some like really high up bistro and I'm just like, what you got? And they're just like, see, here's the thing. We have
Stock is real
Tito's
low.
vodka and Powerade, and I'm just like, okay. Could you just like poop in a cup for me? Like,
It's the only way.
I just like start getting really weird, and I'm just like, what'd you have for dinner last night? And they're just like, oh, Los Betos. And I'm like, oh, fucking perfect, dude. I'm so thirsty. Just like poop in a cup for me. And they're like,
Sir, please, I'm quite parched, and this is the only drink I can have.
Sorry, just the word ass juice, it got me real good.
it typically does. It gets people. There's so many things that like it's so odd. The other day, my wife and we were like sitting in bed, and I was talking about, have you ever seen the show Hung on HBO? It's about a guy with just a huge penis, and he like his life is just down in the dumps, and he decides he wants to be a male prostitute. And like, I'm watching this with my wife, and I was like, oh yeah, I remembered watching this when I was a kid. And she was just like, wait, what? And we looked at when it came out, and it came out in like the early 2000s, like early to mid 2000s. She was like, you were like 10 years old. And I was like, yeah, I was fucking watching this shit all the time. I was like, you underestimate how fucked up or lack thereof my childhood actually was. And she's like, it surprises me every time. So I forget why I brought that up, but there you go. It's a fucked up childhood I lead. The Wombat Emperor of Australia, a.k.a. Philip Renshaw, writes in and says, and this is the kind of question I feel bad for having a guest on, but you know what? We fucking did it. If you had to give up wiping your butt or cleaning your teeth, which would you choose? Jacob, which would you choose out of the two?
Man, that is such a tough call. Wiping your butt or cleaning your teeth. Jeez. So, like, if you don't wipe... We're going to get real here. So my brand is usually squeaky clean, but we're going to go dirty today. If you don't wipe your butt, it gets itchy. And if you don't clean your teeth, you have a terrible mouthfeel. So it's either, like, itchy bum or terrible mouthfeel.
It's basically which part of you do you want to smell real bad? Your face or your ass?
Uncomfortable? Yeah, exactly.
Well, like, the thing with wiping your butt is, like, you could shower, and eventually it would kind of deal with itself. So for that reason only, I pick I'm giving up wiping my butt.
So this is a super easy question to me because of the loophole that...
bidet, you have a
bidet. I would be like 100%. I'm just gonna shoot water up my ass. Like, bidets are legit anyway. It's just a good excuse for me to be like, babe, we have to get one. I literally can't wipe my butt for some reason. But also, I'm a fucking like nutcase when it comes to teeth. Like, I hate not like every night and every morning I have to both floss, brush, and use mouthwash.
Dude, same. I like
Can't
literally
my teeth feel
routine,
gross if I don't.
Yeah, is to floss, and then I brush,
Yep.
and then I use a water pick, and then I use mouthwash.
Wow.
And I'm like, my teeth are probably so fucked up just from doing that.
Doing all that, yeah. You're just destroying all the enamel on your teeth. You're just fucking ripping it all off.
See, I mean, you guys you had the perfect poop hole loophole, is that I could just wash my butt in the shower, or I could use, like, I don't actually have to wash. Like,
you could
honestly,
literally just get a hose. Just fucking spray it right up there.
Here's
poop
the thing.
Hole loophole.
I know, I do.
Sorry.
That was really good.
I appreciate myself.
You're on fire. Ass juice and poop hole loophole.
When it comes to butt stuff, I'm pretty good. Trust me, I'm quite knowledgeable.
It's a good sentence, too.
See, here's the thing. It's like, why in everyday life am I still wiping my ass? Like, I still don't understand. So if anything, I would have to choose cleaning my teeth so that I would have to have this promise to the Emperor of Australia that I would no longer wipe my own butt. So I would have to get like a new shower hut, like a new shower head where I just like shove it between my cheeks.
Could you also hire people? Like, it's only you can't wipe your butt. Your wife could wipe your butt.
That's so
you would just
true,
every
dude.
time you poop, you'd be like, "Come on, babe, it's time. It's poop time."
I could get like in-home help, like a nurse that just wipes my butt, and she's just like, I normally do this for people with legitimate reasons, like, and I'm like, here's the reason though, because I have to brush my teeth, and she just never understands it.
Like, okay.
That would just be so good because you know that she would go home like after her first day. She would go home and just lay awake, and be like, "What does he mean by that? Though? Like, he has to brush his teeth? Like, And she would never ask about it though because she's too professional to ask me this weird question. So, License to Chill, aka possibly Zach. I'm fairly certain that is Zach Durham, but Josh is not.
I don't fucking know, man. The one thing, I'm so bad with names in general, and then we all have different names in the Discord, so I'm always like, fuck. It took me so long to know that I think it's Marshman's is Sam.
Is Sam?
And he literally had to say it on the stream that we were on, and I was like, oh, it's fucking Sam. I was like, I didn't even know who you were in the Discord, like for a long time. Because
it happens.
Not very good.
Yeah. It's kind of fucked up. It got to the point where Josh and I were both like, I think we just need to require people to put their fucking name because we don't know what their names are. But License to Chill writes in and says, what do you think is the most accurate artificial fruit flavor? And which is your favorite? I think orange is the most accurate, but mango is my favorite. So Jacob, when it comes to artificial fruit flavoring, which do you think is the most accurate and what is your favorite?
I think my answer is the same for both, and it is watermelon.
Oh.
Watermelon does not taste at all accurate. What are you fucking smoking?
But it tastes so good.
Okay, yeah, sure, but there's no way. It's fucking candy. No way. Any watermelon artificial is like the sweetest thing you've ever had, and then you eat a regular watermelon, and you're like, water in a melon.
But like you take the water out, and it's watermelon. You know, artificial flavor.
Like, am I the only person who wants to do a social experiment with a child who only eats, like, watermelon-flavored candy for, like, ever? They never get to taste watermelon. Nothing. But they only get the artificial flavoring of watermelon and then just give them watermelon one day and tell them that this is what it's supposed to taste like and see what happens. They just, like, take a bite and they're like, this tastes like shit. They're just, like, so upset about it.
You lied to me.
Yeah, they're like, you're a liar, dude. Like, this is, yeah, they just think we rewrote history, that that the watermelon is the thing that tastes off, that they didn't copy the flavor correctly from the candy. You're just like,
watermelon more like ass juice. This is a child saying this also.
Yeah.
100%, this will be my child. Yeah.
Can't wait.
Like, I didn't get to have a childhood, so neither do they. So, Josh, what do you think is the most accurate artificial flavor, and which is your favorite?
I think...
and neither should be banana. I'm just going to go right out there and say if your favorite flavoring is banana...
That's the wrong answer.
I seriously despise you.
No.
Like, my wife loves banana.
I love banana, like, regular bananas, but, like, artificially flavored banana stuff is always, like, really, like... ugh.
It's gross, dude.
Yeah, I think they were right that the most accurate is probably orange. I think it's the closest to get with a lot of these. My favorite... I think I'm probably just gonna go with grape because I love grape soda. It's always like a very, like, it's very rare that I ever have it, but when I do, I'm always like, what a treat! Grape soda. It's like, I don't know, it's so different.
For me, the most accurate, I feel like orange is a pretty good one because, like, it all just tastes like citrus. Like, an orange just tastes like citrus, so it's not that hard to, like, actually match that flavor. But if we're being honest, like, I'll tell you the least accurate is green apple. Because for some reason, like, green apples are not sour. But for some reason, anytime you get a green apple thing, it's always sour. And you're just like, why? Every time.
There are some green apples that are sour.
Well, yeah, there are. Like, if you pick them too early or something, it's just like normal apples. Like, if you pick them too early, they're sour. It's just a thing.
No, there are types of apples. Dude, do you know how many types of apples there are?
Okay, there's an absurd amount.
So many types of apples.
When I worked at a grocery store and somebody brought up, like, an apple, and I was like, honestly, like, what the fuck?
Just get one of them.
The first time I saw a Honeycrisp apple, I was like, fuck, this apple is huge, dude.
So good.
Yeah, it's like the size of your head, and then you find out that it's literally just like a barrel of sugar, and you're just like, why you gotta ruin my life, nature? I thought you were supposed to be healthy. Nope. Like, what's wrong with you?
Nope.
But my favorite would be blue raspberry, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't even know if that exists in real life. Like, this is the thing. There's just so many things that exist on Earth that I don't actually understand. So, like... My favorite is blue raspberry, but I can't say it's the most accurate because I've never seen one other than on packages of candy. Like, I don't know if it actually exists.
Do you know that banana was created by man? That the bananas we eat today were created by a genetic experiment because the old bananas were extinct, and we eat the Cavendish banana today, and it was a lab experiment.
Yep.
That's spooky.
Pretty cool, ain't it?
Honestly. Like, we fucking Jurassic Parked bananas?
Yeah,
What is this?
Yeah.
Oh my god. I would not be surprised if, like, eventually we see a movie about mutated bananas because, like, that are on the... Oh,
I'm sure there's something
fucking
out of
Cloudy
that.
with a Chance of Meatballs has totally changed everything now.
I mean, it's the same thing with corn. Like, corn is so fucking different than what it used to be years ago. It's like, we just changed
corn is
food.
also in everything, which is the creepiest thing on earth. It's like, just think of anything you ingest, it's got corn in it. Like, there's high fructose corn syrup. Your fucking toothpaste has corn in it. You're like, why? I despise corn as an ingredient,
It's
but
so
knowing
cheap.
that it's in everything pisses me off. I hate it.
By the way, I quickly Googled this. The North Dakota State University says that there is no such thing as a blue raspberry in real life.
I fucking knew it! They don't exist!
Got him.
I'm trying to fucking the world, like the candy corporations are trying to gaslight me into thinking the blue raspberries exist, but I don't believe it. It's my favorite, but I don't fucking believe it. Watch them manufacture blue raspberries and it just blows my fucking mind one day. I'm just like, oh my god. Chris Penwell from That Their Active Quest writes in and says, you have any choice of fast food, where do you go? This is actually kind of an interesting question because I live on the west coast of the United States. Josh lives on technically like the southeast, and
Technically.
Jacob lives in Canada. So, well, here's the thing. I'm not good with geography, but I'm pretty sure that Florida is on that side. Or something.
I am on the East Coast.
Yeah.
So we're going to
There
give you
you
some
go.
East Coast selections.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
all right. So, favorite fast food, or I guess you have any choice of fast food. Where do you go, Jacob? Where are you going?
So I am a celiac, which means that gluten destroys my insides.
Nope.
So Shake Shack is very kind to people like me. So Shake Shack,
Shake
baby.
Shack. Yes.
And for the Canadian listeners, there's no Shake Shack in Canada. It makes me very sad.
Oh, that sucks.
But I'm close to Detroit, so I can go and get Shake Shack sometimes. That's a tongue twister.
That is.
In Canada, there's a similar chain called Burger's Priest. So if, again, to your two Canadian listeners, are going to be like, Burger's Priest, I know that place.
I just
those are
love
my
the
choices.
idea of Canada basically being like an entire place of knockoff things from the United States. It's like a Burger Priest.
Burger's Priest is real good, but Shake Shack is my answer.
That's
Hell,
awesome.
yeah.
Okay.
Shake Shack. Hands down. It's too good.
That's what you'd choose too, Josh?
Yeah, dude. I love Shake Shack. Their
don't even
burgers
know
are
what the fuck
great.
that is,
Their
dude.
shakes are fucking great. I think their fries aren't the best, but like the burgers are just so good.
Yep.
Gee, I've never gone to a Shake Shack, but I feel like they exist somewhere around me, you know?
Probably.
In probably California, like if I ever went there.
Well,
like,
it's more East Coast because like like the West Coast side would be the what the fuck is
In-N-Out.
it? The animal fries place. In-N-Out. Yeah.
Oh, I've never had In-N-Out either, and people like fucking say it's the most amazing thing ever.
I went
the
once and
closest
I
one to
hated
me
it.
is in the closest one to me is in like Salt Lake City, and I don't want to drive like 8 hours to eat a burger. So like this isn't fucking Harold and Kumar. Like I don't give a fuck. So see, for me, I would actually like. I think it's interesting that you both went with burgers. I love me a burger. But if I chose one thing right now, I would probably say Panda Express because I'm a big fan of. You got to get that. You get that orange chicken. You get grilled teriyaki chicken with the sauce on the side because for some reason, even though it's their job, they can't figure out how to ladle sauce on stuff. Like they always like every time I fucking get it, I'm just like put the teriyaki sauce on the chicken, and they're just like, oh. That's orange chicken and okay, yeah, everything's chicken, and they just like fucking just unload it on everything. I'm like, are you serious right now? So, sauce on the side, and then I just get the fried rice. I don't mess with the chow mein or the lo mein, whatever it's called, because it's
love
got too
lo
many
mein.
vegetables. Not a fan.
Oh my God.
See, I go to fast food to be a chonk ass boy. Okay, I don't.
I suppose
fucking,
that's true.
I'm not going there to be healthy. Also, though, I had a friend who told me that Panda Express was healthy. Same guy who we
It's
argued
not.
that diarrhea was a soft drink. Like, it's fucking arguments galore with this guy. So, it's fantastic. But Our last question of today comes from Mr. Josh Nichols from That Their Active Quest. They write in and say, have you ever played the McDonald's game on Sega Genesis? This game was really good and fun, but I haven't played it in a long time. I'm debating on checking it out again and potentially finding out if it's any good.
Probably
so,
should not.
Jacob, I believe, yeah, more than likely not. But Jacob, I believe you actually had an interaction with him on Twitter about this. So have you ever played this McDonald's Genesis game, and why does it haunt your dreams?
I think about this game yearly, and like I typically wouldn't like jump the queue and be like, I'm gonna be that douche who like answers the questions directly on Twitter, but I had to in all caps because McDonald's Treasure Land Adventure is a game that I think about yearly. It was developed by Treasure, who did like Gunstar Heroes, who did Astro Boy: The Omega Factor for Game Boy Advance. It is not an excellent game, but it is better than it should be. And it is a game that I would go back and play if I had my Genesis here after this conversation. It is way better than it should be. Ronald McDonald is a hero, and he's got this kind of like little like stretchy cane, I think, that you can throw at stuff, and it's a very fun game. So if you have a Genesis or an emulator, please do me a favor. When this podcast is done, download it, play it, and like you might have 15 minutes or 20 minutes of fun. It's very short, but it is a fun-ass game.
I've never even heard of this game before, dude.
Yo, it is so good.
I love the passion that comes from this. But two, I love the old era of all of those, mostly, it was quite commonly, these shitty, like, weird brand games that came out back then. Like, they were just like, McDonald's needs a game, Burger King needs a game, they're like the Cool Spot guy from 7-Up, he needs a game. Like, what? Like, I wish we would get back to that type of world where like these random names, like I want to, you know, the Cheeto guy, like the, I don't know, Chaz or whatever.
Chester Cheetah.
Chester, yeah. I want a game of that guy. Like, why can't we get, come on, give us some cool, like, old school platformers with those things. Yacht Club,
honest, I think
get your
there is
shit
a Cheetah
together.
game. There is a Chester Cheetah game, I'm fairly certain. Dude, fucking, like, yeah, there was just such an interesting, like, time in the games industry when every fast food chain was like,
Home Improvement had a
game.
fucking game, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's obviously that led to, like, the video game crash, but still, that shit was just so interesting. Like, fucking Sneak King exists.
Yep.
There's a video game where the entire objective is you as the king, the Burger King, sneaking up on people and giving them Whoppers. What is that all about?
This game is okay, though. So, like, I implore you, if you're interested, like, if you like anything Treasure's ever done, Gunstar Heroes, Wario World for GameCube, Ikaruga, like, give this game a shot. It is better than it should be. It's not great. You can beat it in an hour, but it's better than it should be.
I love that Jake, like, he's
I came ready.
See, here's the thing. You embody the spirit of IndiePod that I specifically have cultivated, which is subtly shitting on stuff. Like, it's just so good.
Better than
like,
it should be.
Yeah, you're like, better than it should be. But this game's actually good. Like, all of that stuff, I'm like, yes, you 100% the perfect guest to be on IndiePod. I'm actually terrified for our next guest. I'm going to be 100% honest. Because this person is like, I have no idea how they're going to relate to me specifically, so it'll be interesting. But these past 2 weeks, been an absolute pleasure. We had an amazing time with Caitlin, amazing time with Jacob. The next person, is a human being, so I'm actually kind of scared of that. But whatever, that is the end of this podcast. Thanks everyone so much for listening. At the end of this episode, because once again, can't let Big Josh Boy out of this, infinity long contract. Sorry, big boy, you should have read the fine print. That is the end, like I said. Thanks everyone so much for listening, for writing in your questions, and everything you do. You're all amazing. Of course, let me reiterate our housekeeping before we go. Please check out our developer interview from, how do you say that first name? Because I forgot in the past 2 hours.
Eltanen
Kaskiani, from the developer of Monstrum 2. I believe they're actually like the community.
Yeah, community manager.
Yeah, the community manager for Monstrum 2. Really excited to listen to it. That one's, of course, going live one day after for patrons, 2 days before for plebes. Please check out the IndiePod store for t-shirts and stickers, soon to be other stuff. Check out our YouTube specifically for episodes like this one, video episodes of the show. You can check out Josh's awesome review. You can check out our stream VODs from Thursdays. Check it all out. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. Thank you. Share with your friends, however that works. Please leave us reviews on any sort of platform, specifically iTunes, because I've been told incessantly that it helps, unless you live in Canada, which that kind of sucks, I guess. And lastly, thank you so much to all of our amazing patrons. Will C. Mixomatosis, a.k.a. Mix, Zach Durham, Chase Hopkins, Philip Renshaw, the Wombat Emperor of Australia, Chris Penwell, just always drinking that tea, dude. Always drinking it. He's guzzling down the tea. Mr. Josh Nichols, Active Josh from That There Active Quest, and Sam Fillion from Canada. Thank you all so much for being so amazing. So, of course, if you would like to chat with us outside the show, you could do so in a bunch of different ways. You could follow the podcast, which I absolutely recommend, at IndiePod for stuff like notifications of the episodes, upcoming indie games that you may not have known about. We've got new deals and quick steals that if you aren't a patron, you need to know about. I'll let you know there. So make sure to follow us at IndiePod. Super easy to find, especially if, you can spell the first part of this podcast. Or if you're listening to it on Spotify, just copy that part. Just put it in the Twitter. You get it. It's fine. Please check out myself. Follow me over there on the Twitter. It's at High Legion. You could check out my Twitch streams on Saturdays and Sundays, and of course the Thursday one with the Biggest Survivors Josh boys. You could check out Josh at _Jorsh90 over on Twitter, or at _Jorsh on Twitch, or twitch.tv/the_Jorsh. And lastly, Jacob, I'm going to let you do your own, because I feel like you got a lot of stuff to shout out, and I don't know what they are. So please, Jacob McCourt, tell me, where are you from? Where can people find you?
I'm in Canada. Oh, sorry. Talk about my thing.
Oh, yeah. I need your GPS
I'm in Canada.
Yeah.
I live in a condo. No. You can find me on Twitter at Jacob McCourt. I'm basically that on every major social media platform, TikTok, YouTube, etc. I host 2 podcasts. The first is called The Left Behind Game Club. It is a video game book club podcast. We do an episode every other month. We have over 100 episodes, so if you are interested in my style of BS, what I would suggest you do is go into that feed, find a game you like, and listen. You will probably have a good time. My second podcast is called Cutscenes. It is a video game movie podcast that I do seasonally. Season 2 launches on February 4th, so I think that it will be out by the time this comes out, so check that out.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome, dude. I didn't know you did a second podcast. That's sweet. I'll have to check it out.
I hate my spare time. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Dude, I fucking get it. I get it. I agreed to so many podcasts, and now that I'm back in school, I'm just like, oh no, time. Where
what
did
is
it go?
Time? Uh-huh.
Yeah.
We're kindred spirits in that way.
That is it for this episode. Thanks everyone so much for listening, and join us next week for more indie games. And a guest is more than likely going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to be great. I'm super excited about it. Thanks everyone so much for listening. Goodbye.